Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, the game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, which today is the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue. This is where we are sitting right in the lobby, right by the Twice Daily. You know I love Twice Daily. And the Piranhas Hockey World right here. And we've got giant boxes from the Home Depot where you can come in here and you can put in a gently used or new coat that is going to Coats for Kids. And we are giving away these coats all day today. So be excited about all of that here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. And again, we will encourage you guys again all throughout the show today to bring these coats because, I mean, I've got a nice coat on here. Not a very expensive coat, but it's a nice coat. I got a nice coat on here to be warm this year, and we want everybody else to be warm as well this year. Ian is here today on our final Fireball Hot Take Friday of 2024. Ian, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
We made it. We've made it through the year, and this has been a year, let me tell you something, folks. But we made it, and I'm glad we made it. And in the end, it was a pretty good year, wasn't it? Maybe not for the Titans. So we have a poll up right now on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. We have a poll up right now on Twitter at Jared Stillman. And the question is this: if Amy Adams Strunk were to announce that she is bringing back Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan, the crew, how would that make you feel? A, happy. B, angry. C, disappointed. D, content. We'll update our poll throughout the show. The reason I picked this poll is because it is becoming clear to me that people within the Titans media that cover the team are under the impression that Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan are coming back. For instance, yesterday on the TD Power Hour, Teron Davenport was with us, and he said what his understanding is.
No. I'm not saying that anybody's speaking. I'm just saying what I've been told is they're not making major changes. A la Rand, a la Chad Brinker, a la Brian Callahan. They're not making major changes.
No! And that's exactly how I felt. Then this morning, PK had kind of indicated something similar. I'd done a little fishing. I had heard that maybe there won't be. And I got on his ass this morning and I said, PK, what do you know? He won't report that they're coming back. But what is it? Here's what PK said this morning.
This is fascinating. I saw that you tweeted about it, that you're upset with me that I'm not reporting it. So I know what I know. And I can't report it. I can tell you, I have informed speculation that people are going to be safe. And I've said things can certainly change over time. They could easily go out and get hammered by Houston in Oilers uniforms. And Amy, as we know, can change her mind and something can happen. But as of now, I would be surprised if big changes come.
Okay. So between TD and PK, they're making it very clear that what they're hearing is probably not going to be big changes this year. Now, they haven't heard it from Amy directly because if they did, they would straight up report it. If TD heard from Amy, I'm not making any changes, then ESPN would be running a story that the Titans aren't making any changes. They're not doing that. Same with Paul Kaharski. But we need to remember that this time last year, Amy was telling people that Mike Vrabel was going to return in 2024, and we know what happened there. But if this is the reality and everybody returns in 2025, then all I can say is forget about next season. And I can say it before this season even ends. And I'm going to be honest, this fan base deserves better than that. Other than demonstrating patience, which the 49ers, the Texans, and the Broncos all didn't do before they found the answer in their football department, there is no reason, the final 3 games of this season permitting, to bring these guys back. Just like there was no reason to promote, in quotation marks, Ran or promote this season. during the free agency and the draft and the every box. And they have to win out to match last year's quote unquote, according to Amy, unacceptable results. Chad Brinker bragged about their AI analytics model for injury prevention, and then they traded for L'Jarius Sneed. What else do you need to see? The only thing I can assume, if this is true, and again, what TD and Paul made clear is the indications they've heard are that major changes aren't coming. But again, they haven't heard this from Amy, because if they heard it from Amy, then it would be a legitimate stone cold report. The only thing I can assume, if this is true, is that Amy believes in Rand and Chad and Brian Callahan because she wants to believe in Rand and Chad and Brian Callahan. Because it was her move to fire John Robinson, and it was her name on that statement. It was her move to fire Mike Vrabel, a very popular and successful coach. Rand Carthon got up to the podium after they fired Vrabel, and he couldn't even speak to the decision in a press conference the day that Vrabel was fired. Now look, the Titans claim that when Amy lied last year to everybody, Diana Rossini most notably, the Titans claim that that was about Vrabel being safe because they didn't want Vrabel worrying about his job status. Mike, don't worry about your job status. Don't worry about a trade to the Patriots. Don't worry about, we believe in you. Now go out there and coach. And that sounds nice, but again, who knows? At the end of the day, it's not telling the truth. So maybe this is the same. Maybe Amy is telling Chad and Rand and Brian Callahan, hey, don't you guys worry. I've got your back. She told that to Mike Mularkey, and he got fired. I'm pretty sure John Robinson, the day that Burke Nihill walked in with the cell phone to hand to him to have Amy fire him over the phone, I'm sure he was shocked when he got done in. And of course, with Vrabel again last year, they told everybody Vrabel was coming back. So maybe this is the same. Let's tell everyone they're coming back, and let's not do anything stupid, and then let's move on at the end of the year. I don't know. But other than that, what is the explanation? I really need an explanation for why the Titans should stay on this path. Well, Jared, it's not fair that this is the NFL. You don't get to win 9 games over 2 seasons and keep your job. This is an owner who fired Mike Mularkey for winning 9 games in both seasons that he coached, and he got canned. And I didn't buy the bull crap last year when they said that Vrabel was coming back, because I knew the Titans ownership's track record and pattern of not telling the truth. I said it at the time. I remember when they put out a statement saying that Mike Mularkey was the coach going forward after the Kansas City victory. And I thought right then and there, okay, Mularkey's coming back. The owner said it, team stationary. There's no question here. And then they fired him. So when they told everybody last year Vrabel was coming back, I said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I ended up being right as the one person that said, wait a minute, hold on, this doesn't make any sense. But for some reason, my anxiety, and I got a lot of it, trust me, my anxiety is just going ham. That on January 6th of this year, Amy Adams Strunk will release a statement endorsing the status quo. The idea that these guys will come back, and it will be another offseason of gaslighting and broken promises and bold statements that can't possibly be true. And I gave up on 2024 a long, long time ago. Give Rand a chance, they said. I did. Then he didn't get a right tackle. I stopped worrying about that. I was mad about that in March and April. But Jared, it's only March. I know. This is when you get better. I wasn't worrying about it in September, October, because I knew. So I gave up on 2024 a long time ago. No matter how many people in the organization and outside of the organization told me, give Rand a chance. You'll see, you'll see, you'll see. I knew after week 3 when Malik Willis came in here and took the bone out of the rear end of the Titans that this year was over. I'm not ready to give up on 2025. But if they say everybody's coming back, you have no shot to compete in 2025. They've proven it to you over 2 years. So I'm not ready to throw in the towel on next year. But that's what bringing everybody back would be doing. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. That's how we're starting the show. 615-737-1025. And I do wonder, last year Vrabel got the boot. Fans were a little upset, although there were some that liked it. And they, quote unquote, promoted Rand Carthon. And then they hired Brian Callahan. And somehow the fans actually ended up liking it. So I'm trying to figure out what the message will be if Amy Adams Strunk does keep the status quo going forward. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Again, we are raising coats. We're not raising money. We're raising coats. So bring a slightly used or new coat right here to Ford Ice Center Bellevue. We're sitting right here in the lobby. We got a box full of coats. We want to load them up. Again, coats for kids. So come on out today. Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. It's 102.5 The Game.
At this moment that you make this change and set a new course for the Tennessee Titans, what does Amy Adams-Strunk want Titans fans to know at this time?
I have high expectations, and I'll never apologize for that. And these fans deserve a great team, and they deserve a championship brought to the city. And that's what we're going to work towards. And I'm prepared to make the hard decisions to hopefully get us there sooner. This team has a bright future. We have Rand. We have a promising young quarterback. I mean, the sky's the limit. We've got cap space. We've got a great draft position. Things are bright for the Titans. I'm really very, very optimistic. And I'd like to thank the fans for hanging with us this year. Our season was unacceptable, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there sooner rather than later.
We're going to get there, Titan fans. Last year was unacceptable, but with this promising young quarterback, we're going to get there sooner rather than later. It should be noted, as everybody knows, the Titans are done now with the promising young quarterback. Now he's just a Mayo pitch man. Hate to say it, but that's the reality. And again, Amy Adams-Strunk last year was unacceptable. So what was this year? The Titans must win out in order to have the same record with which they had last year. So I don't see how, if Amy believed what she told Mike Keith that day, the day she fired Mike Vrabel a year ago, I cannot imagine that she would keep this administration in place. But again, TD's hearing, there's not going to be massive changes. Paul's hearing, there's not going to be massive changes. Don't know where they're hearing it from. Don't know if the people that they're hearing it from have the authority to know whether or not Amy's thinking about massive changes, but that's just what they're saying. So I thought to myself this morning, I said, what would Amy say? Like, if she keeps this group together. Again, it's easy to say when you fire somebody, that's unacceptable, and we're going to hire somebody better to do it right. Yay! And that's what she would say if she fires them. And again, I don't care what she says. I just care that she does it and then go get somebody that has a clue in here. But I'm trying to think, what would she say if she doesn't get rid of them? There has to be a statement at the end of the year. You can't win 3 games. You can't go 3-14 and bring everybody back and just say, what? I mean, you think it's crazy that I bring everybody back after 3-14? But I got to release a statement. What? You can't do that. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, give me an Amy Adams-Strunk statement on keeping Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan. So here's what I asked the AI app to do. I said, the Tennessee Titans have a record of 3-11 since firing popular head coach Mike Vrabel after last season's 6-11 finish. The season before, they fired general manager John Robinson, who won 61% of his games and never had a losing record. Current GM Rand Carthon has a 9-22 record, and current coach Brian Callahan is 3-11. This team led the league in guaranteed money in free agency this previous offseason to no avail. Please craft a statement from owner Amy Adams-Strunk based on her previous statements announcing that she will keep Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan in 2025. So I sent in the John Robinson firing statement, the Mike Vrabel firing statement, and the Rand Carthon quote-unquote promotion statement from last year. And I sent it all into ChatGPT, and I said, give me a statement. Ian, are you ready for the statement?
Ready.
Should I do it in the Amy voice?
If you can go the whole time, sure.
So I'm going to ask this question before I give you the statement. If you're a Titan fan and on January 6th of 2025 or whatever day it is that Amy releases this statement, knowing them, they'll release it on Wednesday because everybody will be sitting around Monday and Tuesday saying, so are people fired or are they coming back or what? And then again, if PK's right and TD's right and they're all coming back and they end up coming back, if that's what happens, then they'll have to release this statement. So my question is, how will you feel when you hear this statement? As the controlling owner of the Tennessee Titans since 2015, my commitment to raising the standard for our organization has never wavered. From the beginning, my focus has been on building a sustainable culture of excellence, both on and off the field. I believe we have made significant strides through investments in leadership, talent acquisition, and forward-thinking strategies. While the results of the 2024 season have been disappointing, I remain steadfast in my belief that Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan are the right leaders to guide this team into the future. Rand Carthon's innovative approach to roster construction and his ability to cultivate a competitive team culture were instrumental in our decision to entrust him with the responsibility of reshaping our organization. Although the transition has not yet yielded the results we hoped for, I am confident in his vision and ability to identify and develop the talent needed to return this franchise to prominence. Rand continues to be a respected voice in the NFL community, and his leadership remains a critical asset for the Tennessee Titans. Brian Callahan is an intelligent and hardworking coach who has shown resilience in the face of challenges. Despite the record this season, Brian has demonstrated a deep understanding of the game and a commitment to building a winning team. His leadership within the locker room and his rapport with our players are key components of the foundation we are working to strengthen. I understand the frustration of our fans and share their desire for better results. However, I firmly believe that continuity and patience are essential to achieving sustained success. We have invested heavily in this organization, including this past offseason, and I remain confident that these investments will pay off under Rand and Brian's guidance. Our goal remains the same: to bring a championship to the city of Nashville and our loyal Titans fans. I want to thank everyone who continues to support this team through thick and thin. We are committed to doing everything in our power to make you proud. Together, I believe we can achieve great things. Amy Adams Strunk, ChatGPT. How would that make you feel? By the way, Ian, how did you feel about that detail? I mean, that seems like something like when I read that statement, I was like, this seems like an email I'd get from the Titans.
Not too far off.
I mean, so if Amy's sitting here saying, guys, I know this year was a disappointment. I know I'm as frustrated as anybody, but I am confident and I am steadfast and I believe, and if she said this again,
continuity and patience are essential.
I mean, did she say that in there?
That's what I firmly believe, that continuity and patience are essential to achieving sustained success. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's in the statement. If she said that, how would that make you feel? And I'm not just talking to the people she's asking $35,000 a PSL from. I'm talking about everybody who supports this team. Because I don't care if you're paying $70,000 for a PSL or $35,000 for a PSL or however much money you're paying for PSLs. Again, those people love the Titans. I have PSLs in the new stadium and paid through the ass for them. But I love the Titans. But there are also people that can't afford to buy PSLs or don't want to go to the games. And they love the Titans too. So I'm including everybody in this. How would you feel if your owner released this statement in which, again, Rand's innovative approach to roster construction and his ability to cultivate a competitive team culture were instrumental in our decision to entrust him with the responsibility of reshaping our organization? Although the transition is not yielded the results we hope for, I am confident in his vision and ability to identify and develop the talent needed to return this franchise to prominence. I got a feeling there'd be a lot of pissed off people if this is what happens. But again, this is what apparently, again, the writing on the wall, TD and Paul are indicating is most likely to happen. So, when I hear TD say, what I'm hearing is there not going to be major changes. When I hear Paul say, I've done some fishing and it doesn't sound like there's going to be any change, all I can think is, no, oh God, oh God, oh God. Oh God. And this is exactly how it's going to go down if it goes down. You're going to get that statement from ChatGPT. You're going to get that statement from Amy Adams Strunk. You ain't going to hear from her. And there will certainly be no press conference where independent media that has the scruples to ask hard questions will ask them. And how will that make you feel? 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to weigh in here on the program. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company. Again, we are live at the Ford Ice Center. Come on out. Bring out Ford Ice Center Bellevue. Bring out those coats for Kids here on Stillman and Company. 1025, 1063 The Game. Got to tell you about Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. I love Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. It goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. If you are having a holiday party, be sure to ignite the night with ice cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. If you are toasting to 2025, and Lord, I hope I can be excited about 2025, and I'll know in about 3 weeks. But if you are, then get you some Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. It goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. There's no better way to ignite the night than to do so with ice cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Ignite the night. Please do responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey.
It's funny, before we came out, AJ Highsmith and I were in, my office, and I'm straightening up my desk because my wife is coming to practice today. So Lord knows I got to have it clean before she comes in.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the sheet that the offensive staff had broke down in terms of our needs going into the offseason. And, you know, we could, I'll show you guys later, but we literally checked every single box.
Wow.
From what we felt like we needed in starters to the furthest backup. And we were able to hit every single one of those. So, and that's what we really set out to do. Really set out to, wasn't necessarily like, hey, we got to flip this roster, but it was like, let's fill these holes and these needs that we have.
How can you think that somebody that says that before a team wins 3 games and they don't have a right tackle has any freaking clue of what they're doing? Like, it's one thing for Rand to say that in August. You know, again, Charles Davis, wow. By the way, Ian, can we get that cut again? Listen to Charles Davis in the background. This is Charles Davis, like the #2 CBS analyst, and he's listening to this general manager talk about how great things are. He's like, wow. Play the cut.
My wife is coming to practice today, so Lord knows I got to have it clean before she comes in.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the sheet that the offensive staff had broke down in terms of our needs going into the offseason. And, you know, we could, I'll show you guys later, but we literally checked every single box.
Wow.
From what we felt like we needed.
I mean, wow. You checked every box, and then you go on to win 3 games. It's like, how do you take that person seriously? And most of you don't. Because according to our poll on Twitter, how would you feel if Amy Adams Strunk announced the retention of Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan in 2025? 57% of you have picked a negative response. 46% of you lead the way at disappointed. 38% would be content. 11% would be angry. And 5% would be happy. Again, you can get in that poll at Jared Stillman on Twitter. 5% of the people out there would be happy if Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan return. Where I'm really disappointed is the 38% that say they would be content. But again, angry and disappointed are the 2 negative reactions here, and that's taking the way at 57%. 57% is not good enough. It should be darn near 60%. And the only reason I think you got to cap it around 63% or so, and the reason I think you have to cap it is because of my theory about Poo-Poo Johnson. And I brought this up this week, and it's not going anywhere, so get used to it. Poo-Poo Johnson is the fictional quarterback that the Titans could sign, and 30% of the fan base would absolutely love the decision. What I'm saying is they could sign anybody. And 30% would say, let Rand cook, baby. Yeah, Poo-Poo Johnson. And so if we know that 30%, and I don't know how their brains are wired this way. I kind of wish my brain was wired this way. But 30% are going to be positive and say it's great no matter what. Then the best you can do is about 66%. And guess what? Right now, 57% of the people are like, get them out. Get them out. I heard Robbie and Retro talking about my dad this week during one of the Rex rants. And Robbie and Joe, especially Joe's like, I know Jared's dad. Jared's dad is not like Jared. Jared's dad is level-headed. Jared's dad. And I've tried to explain that many times. Ian, you've met my dad.
Yep.
Would you, if people think my dad is like me, what would you tell them?
No, probably not. No.
Okay. And he'd fire him. But again, 38% of you, Ian, would be content if they retain Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan for 2025. I'm not doing another off-season of bull crap followed by a season of terrible football. I'm not doing it. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Justin in Greenbrier says, I seriously am rethinking my fandom if she keeps these guys. I love this team, but with her at the helm, I just feel like things are never going to change, and we are going to spend 40 years in the desert. So here's where I'm going to defend Amy Adams Strunk. And here's where I think Amy Adams Strunk does not get the credit that she is due. Woody Johnson of the Jets, I don't think he can be a good owner. I mean, I was surprised by everybody about the headline that the Jets decided not to trade for Jerry Jeudy based off of a Madden football rating. But if there was any owner in the NFL that was going to do something that stupid, it probably would be Woody Johnson. When it comes to Cleveland or Jacksonville Or some of these other places, like, I'm not surprised when they do something stupid. But Jacksonville has never been good consistently. Cleveland under Jimmy Haslam has never been good consistently. The Raiders under Mark Davis have never been good, period. Amy had a 6-year period where this team didn't lose more than they won, which means she can do it. She had a 6-year period where she really stayed out of it, right? Like, she was at the tailgates and she was at the games and she would take the pictures and sign some autographs, but Amy wasn't doing the day-to-day. Then she took her franchise back. And you've won 9 games in 2 years since. 2.5, really. So, again, do whatever you want, say whatever you want, but I don't think that you're necessarily 40 years in the desert simply because I do know Amy can do it because I've seen Amy do it before. For whatever that's worth. One texter into the text line says, I believe the front office has done a good job bringing in talent the last couple of years. I'm not sold on Callahan yet, but you can't make any progress firing people every year. I have 2 responses to that because people do believe this. I'm actually shocked by it, but people do believe some of this stuff. Number one, let's start with the front office has done a good job bringing in talent the last couple of years. How many franchise-changing players have become Tennessee Titans over the last 2 years? If you want to dog John Robinson for trading away A.J. Brown, who is a franchise-changing player, a superstar caliber player, you can do that. And he absolutely traded him away, and it absolutely blew up in his face. But he also drafted Derrick Henry and Kevin Byard, etc. How many franchise-changing players have the Titans brought in the last 2 years? The answer? 0. So when you tell me that they've done a good job of bringing in talent, do you just mean, well, I mean, hey, they traded for L'Jarius Sneed and Madden Football says he's good. And then the second thing is you can't make progress firing people every year. The Texans went through 4 coaches in 4 years. Would you trade places with the Texans right now? The Broncos didn't even give Nathaniel Hackett an entire season. Would you trade places with them? The 49ers, 4 coaches in 4 seasons. And I know they're having an injury-riddled, filled, disappointing season by their standards. But would you trade for them? You guys keep telling me, you cannot fire everybody all the... Well, I didn't fire John Robinson in the middle of the season. I think that's what you can't do, and she did it. But the Texans, the 49ers, and the Broncos, they cut bait when they realized they were dealing with stupidity and incompetence. Why can't I do the same? One texter says, Amy says unacceptable. Callahan said unacceptable. Colt Anderson says unacceptable. It sounds like at the end of the day, it's all going to be accepted, maybe minus Colt Anderson. That's like I was talking to TD yesterday, and I asked the question. I said, okay, TD. I said, if this is the case, and, you know, Rand Carthon comes back, Brian Callahan comes back, and Chad Brinker comes back, who's going to be the fall guy for this? And TD said, was this on the air, Ian, that we talked about this?
I don't know.
I think it was. But said, you know, Colt Anderson and, you know, maybe some other coaches might be that's not good enough. Right? That's not good. If Colt Anderson or Nick Holtz are the fall guys for this, that's not good enough. That Nick Holtz getting fired is not good enough for this monstrosity of a season. One texter says, I hope that again, we made a chat GBT statement of Amy Adams Strunk retaining Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan. Says, I so hope this is the exact statement the Titans release. I will absolutely lose it. I got to tell you, when I read this statement from ChatGPT, and I've used ChatGPT before, when I read the statement, I was like, holy crap. This is an email that I would get from the Titans with a statement from controlling owner Amy Adams Strunk. Chris in Nashville, in reference to the statement, said, please save your statement and we'll compare. Your rendition was beautiful and so accurate. Again, all I did was my Amy impersonation, which I don't think is very good. But I did my Amy impersonation. The statement came from the app, from ChatGPT. And it does feel like something that, something we would definitely hear from the Titans. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. If you want to weigh in, we'll get back into your phones. 615-737-1025. And there is one little thing that if my heart wasn't invested in wanting the Titans to clean house so that they could be good again, that I would be saying constantly to everybody else. So we'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
This is fascinating. I saw that you tweeted about it, that you're upset with me that I'm not reporting it. So I know what I know, and I can't report it. I can tell you, yeah, I have informed speculation that people are going to be safe, and I've said things can certainly change over time. They could easily go out and get hammered by Houston in Oilers uniforms, and Amy, as we know, can change her mind and something can happen. But as of now, I would be surprised if big changes come.
That was PK today saying, I won't report it because Amy could change her mind. But don't expect Carthon and Callahan out of here this year. And I brought this up at the beginning, and I do think we have to keep in mind, we have to remember this. If I was being completely objective, I would be hammering. But my fear as a Titan fan that we are going to be stuck with this terrible general manager and this in-over-his-head head coach next season to have another lifeless year is so high that I kind of almost kicked this to the side a little bit. They told everyone Vrabel was coming back next year until the very last game. The Jacksonville game was when people started to hear, Vrabel may not be coming back. But before the Jacksonville game, every day it was Vrabel's coming back. And I said, I don't believe them because I didn't believe them because I believed them with Mike Mularkey, and then they fired him. So if I believed you the first time and you lied, I'm not going to believe you the second time. So history would tell us that the Titans are notorious for lying about this kind of stuff. So we need to keep that in mind. But my fear of them coming back has pushed that little asterisk or that reminder or that little granule of hope that I have that these guys will be out of here. So it's been pushed off to the side a little bit, but I do think it's worth bringing up and remembering that the Titans lied to everybody last year. And they lied to everybody the time before that too. So we just got to keep that in mind. Andrew texts into the text line and says, Jared, I'm curious what you think the breaking point was when you personally felt each person needed to go. I'm talking about quotes and not necessarily actions. Here are mine when I knew that these people were unserious or incompetent. Amy Adams shrunk when she said multiple Lombardi trophies. Carthon when he said the ball isn't round and that they checked every box. Callahan when he said ask any team we've played how tough we are. And Levis when he said DeMario ahead of playing the Jets. Please share your thoughts. So I can't give you quotes where I knew somebody was unserious, but I can give you actions. With Amy, I hate to say it, but when she fired John Robinson, that for me was and it's not that John Robinson was doing such a good job. It's that it was in the middle of the season after the trade deadline when the team was 7-5 and in first place. There had to be some meat on the bone, and then apparently there was none. Zero. And when that happened, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I say this as a Titan fan. We're one of the dumb teams. The Jets, the Raiders, the Commanders at the time with Dan Snyder, the Jags. I can go on down the list. You know them, the stupid teams. Oh no. I couldn't believe that. I couldn't. Because that's what the dumb teams do. So that was the moment with Amy. With Rand Carthon, I think it was kind of a culmination of things, but the one thing for me where I was like, oh my God, was that draft night press conference when he said, hey, we don't always have to be negative. Like, we can be positive around here. We don't have to be negative all the time. This is going to be one of the best nights of their lives. And I was like, oh my God, buddy, this is the major leagues. You do not tell the media how to ask questions. Like, do you know what being general manager is? And the answer, by the way, to that is no. But that was the first time oh my God, this guy's a fool. With Callahan, I would say that I still think the jury's out. Like, I think there's a chance Callahan might develop into an okay coach. But for me, my issues with Callahan go back to training camp and OTAs when he just excused everything bad that happened all the time. Oh, no, it's okay that we threw that interception. It will be fine. And with Levis, to me, it was the Jacksonville game where I was like, I'm out. You can't score more than 6 points against Jacksonville. I mean, you miss Chigakonkwo wide open in the end zone. You get outplayed by Mac Jones. I'm out. So that's kind of the moments for everybody where I was like, oh, no. And when they announce that they're bringing everybody back, you will hear me say, oh, no, no, no. Oh, gosh. Phew. I hope they don't give us a soft landing on this. I hope it's just like everybody is sitting there just waiting, and then bam, here comes this statement from Amy Adams Strunk. One texter says, do you think Colt Anderson knew that free kick rule is the special teams coordinator? Boy, I've heard about that rule like maybe 20 times over the 20 years I've watched the NFL, 25 years I've watched the NFL. I've never seen it before. Like when they said free kick, I didn't even know what that looked like. I'm like, what is that? They put it on a tee and you just kick it? Like I didn't free kick. No, holder just sits there and the guy can take as much time and drill. I'm like, I'm surprised that it doesn't happen more. Shank a punt before halftime? Well, I guess you have to fair catch it, so that would be tough. One texter says, I think you get rid of Rand and Brinker, but keep Callahan one more year and let him pick his quarterback in the draft or free agency. So here's what I don't like about this. If you do that, there will be guys, if you're looking for a new general manager, there will be guys who do not want to work with Brian Callahan. And do you want the best guy that will work with Brian Callahan to be your general manager, or do you want the best guy out there to be your general manager? If I get a vote, I want the best guy to be general manager, The second thing I don't like is that if you make this a stipulation that you have to work with Brian Callahan, you will get somebody hired who will say that they want to work with Brian Callahan, but who might not necessarily actually want to work with Brian Callahan. Gee, where have I seen that before? So to me, I think what you do is if you get rid of Rand and Brinker, you bring somebody in, sure, let them make the call on Callahan, but you can't tell them what to do with the coach. I guess you can tell them what to do with the coach, but you'll end up in the same spot you ended up in with Robinson and Malarkey and with Vrabel and Carthon. And I don't want that. So, again, I think there still may be hope that Callahan's not some total bum of a coach. It's not looking good, but I do think that there is some hope. But if you're telling me that I have to keep him because of the hope, then you're just screwing yourself the same way you've been screwing yourself. 615-737-1025. More of your phones on this topic. Plus, apparently, it's a really bad year to stink. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. And let me tell all the fine folks out there that it's bowl season. And the Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for the college football bowl games. And starting tonight, the college football playoff, presented by Twin Peaks and Parman Tractor and Equipment. Tonight, tune into 1025 and 1063 The Game for the college football playoff first rounder between Indiana and Notre Dame at 7 o'clock. Boy, that's going to be an exciting one. For a list of bowl games carried on the Game Nashville Sports Network, visit thegamenashville.com/bowl games. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Nashville Game Studios. Fordyce Center, Bellevue, where once again, bring a new or slightly used coat. Come on out, drop it off. We got boxes here. If you got a coat that you're like, we don't need this coat anymore, come on out, bring it right here to the Fordyce Center in Bellevue, where we are going to donate these coats to Coats for Kids. So come on out and bring out a coat for the kids if you can to the Fordyce Center, Bellevue. It's a Fireball Hot Take Friday. So I don't know if you guys know this, but if the season ended today, the Tennessee Titans would hold the 6th overall pick. Thank you very much, Drake May. The 6th overall pick. Last year they picked 7th. So we went through that god-awful season. They picked 7th. We don't even know if the player they picked is going to pan out or not. And now it's like, well, guess what? You're 6th this year. Not 1st, not 2nd, not 3rd. 6th. The NFL draft, sometimes it really is like Talladega Nights. If you ain't first, you're last. So I was listening to Robbie and Rexrow today. And I've been told, and I've heard this, that this is not a good year to draft. We know that the quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, are probably going to go higher than they should. And then in other drafts, they'd be pushed further back. That's the reality of the position. But it's not just Sanders and Ward. And it's not just the quarterback position, apparently, that has a lack of talent. I mean, do you want Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck? I don't. So this was Charles Robinson today from Yahoo Sports, who's on Robbie and Rex Road every week. This is what Charles Robinson said he is hearing about the upcoming 2025 NFL draft.
It's a pretty weak draft in general. When you talk to teams, the first round grades, teams generally average, I don't know, maybe 14, 12, 14, 16 first round grades a year, depending on how optimistic certain staffs are. Like I've heard 8 this year, 8 first round grades on some boards. Yeah, not great. I mean, it's great if you're sitting there and going, okay, well, the talent shelf is, I've heard like from 9 to like the mid 50s. You're going to see like the talent is comparable in that space for some teams. So it'll vary for different teams.
9 to 50 is comparable. Do you know who has the number 9 pick right in the 2025 NFL draft? The Chicago Bears at 4-10 have the number 9 pick. If the draft were being held today, you know what the difference between the 4-10 Bears and the 3-11 Titans is? That one Will Levis flick of the wrist to the other team. So again, Charles Robinson is telling you, he's hearing from teams in the NFL that if you get the 9th pick, you might be getting a second round player. I go back to the 2022 draft because that was a weak draft class. And if you remember the top of the first round, there was Sauce Gardner, and there was Aiden Hutchinson, and there were impact players, Garrett Wilson, impact player. But as you got later in the first round, while there have been some nice players, there's a lot of Traylon Burks and Jahan Dodson and Trevor Penning and Cole Strange, and it was a bad draft. So if you had the number 2 pick like Detroit, then you get Aiden Hutchinson. He's a superstar. But after that, there's not much there. So let's think about this. If the draft were being held today, the Raiders and the Giants would be picking 1 and 2. Sanders and Ward. It seems pretty obvious they're taking quarterbacks. New England right now would be picking number 3. They would take Travis Hunter. So now, at this point, Jacksonville, Carolina, Cleveland, and the Jets round out the top 8. There's the receiver out of Arizona, the receiver out of Missouri, the tackle out of Texas, the tackle out of LSU, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, and apparently another corner out of Michigan. And I think that there may be some truth to this, that this is a really weak draft, because if you look at ESPN.com, Matt Miller has a story up where he talks about looking at each college football playoff team and looking at the talent, which round, how many first-round players, second-round players, third-round players, etc. he thinks they have. And there's not that many first-round players on some of the top contenders. Now, when LSU won the title in 2019, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire went in the first round. Grant Delpit, some thought was a first-round talent. Kayvon Chason went in the first round. Like, that team had about 9 guys that were first-round caliber players. Think about the best team in the country right now, Oregon. Their quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, might go in the 6th. So, again, this is a really bad year to stink. So when I hear fans say that what's going on with the Titans this year was a planned tank, there's no way that's possible. With the money they spent, the transactions they made, there is no way. Unless they looked at the draft board. And again, these are the guys that, according to their general manager last year, had the most accurate draft board in the league. There's no way this was a planned tank this year if there are 8 first-round talents. And the second thing, let me just say this, go Colts. Because right now you're at 6. If there's 8 first-round talents and the difference between 9 and 50 is negligible, go Colts. Because the last thing you need is to win on Sunday and knock yourself out of the top 8. So I heard Charles Robinson say that today, and I thought, oh, no, oh, gosh, no. That I couldn't take. Now, TD, whose opinion I do value, says that it's ridiculous to say 8 first-round grades. Said that Abdul Carter is the best, most sudden pass rusher, that guy from Penn State, and that he'll be there at 6. So 8 probably is a stretch. I think even the corner from Michigan, the tackle from Michigan, the 2 offensive tackles, LSU and Texas, the receiver from Arizona, the receiver from Missouri, Travis Hunter, and the 2 quarterbacks, at least. And then Abdul Carter, at least. So it's probably more than 8, but let's just make sure. Let's just make sure you get there. One texter into the text line says, if you fired everybody, who are your replacements? Denver and Houston got great coaches. Who are you going to bring in? A mediocre front office and coach, period, says the texter. There's no chance that if I fire Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker, and Brian Callahan, that I can bring in a good coach or a good general manager, is there? Chicago, Jacksonville, Cleveland, the Raiders, Carolina all fired multiple regimes and are not in a better place. Firing everyone for the sake of doing it does nothing on changing your trajectory. First of all, I think cutting incompetence out the second that you know that you have it is the thing that any HR director would tell you to do from the jump. Number 2, I've told you, I would get an experienced general manager who has had success in the NFL. And for everybody out there that's pretending like there's nobody out there, Jared, there's nobody out there that you can say is a good Pete Carroll is out there. And Pete Carroll would take this job. I am certain of it. And I can guarantee you, if Pete Carroll was the coach, you wouldn't be 3-11. Would you win the Super Bowl? Probably not. But would you be 3-11? Pete Carroll wasn't Belichick, where his own ass got in his own way all the time. Pete was winning and was playing successful football. Ian, correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't feel like the Seahawks have changed at all since Pete's gone. I think they were a middle-of-the-road team with a average to below-average quarterback, and I think they're a middle-of-the-road team right now with the same average to below-average quarterback.
Yeah, they're about status quo. Sounds about right.
So, again, you guys tell me Pete Carroll. You cannot tell me Pete Carroll doesn't know ball. And he's out there. So, again, who are you going to hire? I can get a whole list of guys I can hire that have had more success, that have drafted better players, and that don't say the ball isn't round. Dustin says it doesn't matter if the Titans get to pick 8th or better. They'll pick a guard to play right tackle. They'll take a guard to play. That's probably what will happen. Take an offensive lineman, move them positions, and they won't be as good. And they'll be like, well, I don't know. They'll try to do this whole thing where they tell you that what you see is not actually true. One texter says, Peyton Manning had a horrible first season. Yeah, okay. They should keep Will Levis. Yeah, this is Will Levis' second season. 615-737-1025. Cory Curtis, News 2, joins us next on the program. We might have to play it, Ian. Now that it's official that Levis is slam dunk 4,000 yards. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. Let me tell all the fine folks to be sure to join us for the award-winning pregame show. Chris Andrews and Derek Mason and I will be live at Twin Peaks this Sunday in Madison from 9:30 to 11:30 for the award-winning pregame show, which is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. Stillman and Company live out at the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue because 102.5 The Game and Cromwell Media have teamed up with the Nashville Predators for Coats for Kids, benefiting the Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee. Donate a new or slightly used coat at the Ford Ice Center, and it's not just here, by the way. You can do it in Antioch or in Clarksville as well. And tomorrow, I say tomorrow, I'm really talking about today. That is today, right, Ian? Today, we'll be out here live at Ford Ice Center, Bellevue. Coat donations will be accepted at the Preds home game at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow as well. For more information, visit thegamenashville.com/coats. Okay, I hate to do it. I hate to bring this up, but I can't help myself. During one of the preseason games, Cory Curtis, wearing a Titans pullover on the sidelines on the Titans network, had his infamous Twitter poll in which he asked, would Will Levis become the Titans era's first ever 4,000-yard passer? Using the logic that Jake Browning with the Bengals last year would have averaged 4,000 yards, he said, I think it's a slam dunk. Will Levis has subsequently been benched for the season, and he threw for 1,916 yards. Cory Curtis joins us now on the program from News 2. Cory, you were off by about 2,000 yards.
Yeah, I got halfway there.
Well, that's pretty much how the Titans are, halfway to their 6 wins last season.
Look,
so I want to start on this.
I was dead wrong. Okay, I was dead wrong. I'm glad you said what my reasoning was, because that was my reasoning, that if he could coach Jake Browning to 4,000-yard pace, he could coach Will Levis to a 4,000-yard pace. And I expected more from Will, and I was wrong.
Cory, I want to start with this. Do you think that Levis is the fall guy for the season, or do you think there will be more because this has been that disappointing?
I think he's the number one guy because you can point to his mistakes and direct correlation to losses. But I think there will certainly be more.
So TD says, hey, he doesn't seem to think there are going to be major changes. Paul said he did some fishing around, and from what he heard, he doesn't think there are going to be major changes, i.e. Carthon, Brinker, Callahan. Do you feel the same way, have heard the same thing, expect the same thing? How do you feel where they sit right now?
Well, I just think financially that I don't expect to see massive changes because they're still paying your boy and Mike Vrabel all that money. And
but they won't be paying Vrabel after this year when he gets another job.
If he gets another job. I mean, he's still got to get one. We thought he was going to get one last year. Look, do I think he's going to get a job? Yeah, but I thought he was going to get a job last year.
Dun, 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 dun. Ian, can I guarantee, is this too easy of a guarantee to guarantee that Mike Vrabel's getting a head coaching job this year?
Is it a slam dunk?
Slam dunk. Screw it, Ian. Dun, 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 dun. I guarantee that Mike Vrabel will get a head coaching job in 2025. And Ian, I want you to because when we go through our guarantee list, you're going to sit there and say, duh, that's not really going out on a limb, but it was Cory Curtis that is acting like it is not a freaking guarantee, no shot that Mike Vrabel gets a head coaching job this year.
It is not a guarantee. Would I bet he's not going to? No, of course I think he's getting a job, but I thought he was getting a job last year and he didn't. That's my only point.
Ian, what's our latest on the guarantees, by the way, of late?
We have a few kind of like.
Did you make a guarantee on the Preds season?
No, I don't see.
I didn't.
No, I don't see anything.
No, I made a guarantee that Carrier wouldn't be on the team in 2 seasons, and it was 2.5. That was the tough.
Yeah, we have a few that are like, not are still kind of like pending. You guarantee that Carthon and or Brinker will not address the media following the deadline and poor season. You guarantee
that's done. I mean, the trade deadline time to address the trade deadline is
poor season. Okay. You guarantee that Mike Keith will not leave the Titans to become the voice of the Vols after Bob Kessling retirement. You guarantee that Cleet Blakeman, the ref, will ref the Super Bowl or some important playoff game this year. You guarantee that Levis will not be the quarterback of the Titans next season.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. And so those are our last few right there.
Okay. So, nice. Cory, Mike Vrabel's getting a job, so she's not going to have to worry about paying 3 coaches. I believe that financially, it would benefit her to make a change because nobody's coming to the games next year if Rand Carthon's the GM and Brian Callahan's the coach. And I wonder if people are going to not buy PSLs in the new stadium if she continues with the status quo.
Do you think that? Listen, I know your love of Rand. That's a joke. Do you think that who the GM is plays a role in if people buy tickets or not? And I'm not just saying Titans in general. I'm just saying NFL fans in general.
I think in this case, when the general manager never speaks to the media, and when he does, he says the ball didn't bounce their way. I think that's insulting. I think Rand has insulted Titans fans, and I think that this past offseason, with the gaslighting of the money and the checking every box and the hunting together and the other thing too is, I've said this about Ryan Tannehill. I've said this. Mike Mularkey would be remembered a lot better around here if Mike Vrabel was an abject failure. Like if Vrabel had been a failure, people would have said, we fired Mike Mularkey for this. Well, the reality is Mike Vrabel is now remembered better because of how bad it is now. And I think Titan fans view Rand Carthon as the reason that Mike Vrabel's not here.
Okay. Well, look, I don't view Rand Carthon as to why Mike Vrabel's not here, but I do understand that things are not better. And I do understand the misses that were made this offseason. And I do agree with you that there needs to be more accountability in that position. And there's just not. And that doesn't mean you need to be, Jerry Jones and talk after every game. But, when big things come up, you need to wear the big pants and step out front and represent the football team and not just leave everything on the head coach. And so I don't view that positively. But again, I always look at what are the inner workings, between Rand, Callie, Amy, and how happy are they? I don't know. I don't know.
How can they be happy?
Look, I don't disagree with you. None of them should be happy. I know Callie certainly is not happy. But, is Rand not happy? I don't know. He doesn't talk about anything. So, I don't know.
Well, I mean, he seemed happy last time he talked. He said they checked every box.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they didn't have a right tackle.
Did you see Hassan Haskins last night?
I did. I by the way, everyone keeps bitching about Robinson's drafts. I keep hearing, and look, they were terrible, but I keep hearing like J-Rob didn't draft any good players for those years. And then I see the Chargers have 6 of them starting. Yeah. So is Harbaugh an idiot?
No, Harbaugh is excellent.
Oh, okay. I do wonder this. This is a very loaded question I'm going to ask you. Cory Curtis, News 2 with us on the program.
Can't wait.
Why did Will Levis get benched? Like, why is Mason Rudolph the quarterback? Why are they cutting bait now? Why is Will Levis benched?
It's a really good question. And there's a couple of different ways to go around it. I would think for me, it's Brian Callahan not wanting to lose his football team and wanting to tell those guys, hey, I'm not going to continue to let this guy miss plays so that you don't win football games. You guys work too hard not to win games. So we're going to stop losing games and give ourselves a chance to win games. I think it's about the other 52 guys on the roster.
Then why didn't he do this after week 3?
Well, because he continued.
Did he not care about the other 52 guys in week 4?
Oh, of course he did. But you had hope early in the season that you're working with this guy, that there would be growth. And I always talk about sample size. The sample size is much larger now. You're down to just 3 games. The sample size for 3 games is not a big sample size. This is a much larger sample size. He now has a much better idea of what he believes.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like after 3 weeks, you knew that Levis was the main culprit for being 0-3. And at that point, it's like, okay, well, if we're going to hold everybody to the standard, then you have to grow
from those first 3 games. And then, he does, and then he reverts back to it.
Well, then can I hope that he can grow from the Bengals game last week?
Well, sure you can. And you know what? We can have that conversation of you didn't anoint him the starter next year after he had 4 good games. And so he has 2 bad games, and now you pull the plug on him. You could certainly make that argument. I'm making the statement, it's not about 2 bad games. It's about this is where he sees Will from the start of camp to now, and this is what he's going with.
What did you think of Brian Callahan's reaction to the soft question? And do you think the Titans are soft?
No, I don't. Look, do I think they're fragile in that, like, when things go bad, they don't necessarily aren't able to stop it? Maybe, but I don't think they're soft. I think they play hard. I think they hit people. I don't think. Look, Andre Dillard was soft. Okay, Andre Dillard was not
soft?
Who? PT?
PT.
No, I don't think he's soft. I just don't think he's a gladiator. But I think he's played better.
Cool.
I think he's played better. Look, I'm not going to call him. Look, I just told you, Andre Dillard was soft. Andre Dillard did not confront anybody. You know, PT's not good enough. All right, he's playing better the last couple of weeks, but he's not good enough. But I don't know that he's soft. And I wouldn't call any of these guys soft. And I would expect any head coach to come to their team's defense. We all know what it looks like when a team quits. All right, and I don't think we've seen this team quit. And I don't think it was a terrible question. I just think if you're going to ask that question, you've got to have a stance behind it that either you think they're soft or you're saying, hey, this guy wrote this, that your team is soft. What's your response to it? When you just throw out, they say, it just seems like something that you're hiding behind because you don't want to say it, you know, to their face.
It sounds like something I would have said when I was younger, honestly. Like when I was like maybe 26 or 27 doing this, that like now I wouldn't just be like, people are saying. I wouldn't do.
Yeah,
you know, that's
to say, it wasn't a terrible question. It just it can be asked differently.
Cory Curtis,
you got to stand behind it. Yep, go ahead.
News 2 on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's your hot take?
Well, you know what? Let's take a stab at who the Titans quarterback's going to be next year. And I'm going to put my early backing behind two guys who played for Brian Callahan before, and that's Derek Carr and Jake Browning, because I think they're two of the only real viable options out there.
Well, you have to trade for Jake Browning, so what are you going to be willing to trade?
I don't know. If it was your boy, he'd probably trade 2 firsts and a third, but I think reasonably you can probably trade less than that.
When did Robinson trade 2 firsts and a third for a backup quarterback?
I don't know, but he traded a second and a fourth for a washed receiver.
Hey, a lot of the fans and everybody else, the only person pushing against that was me and Caroline.
You hated that trade.
No.
Of that trade.
I am not defending that trade. I'm defending all of you that were like, trade. Jared, you don't understand. Back in the day,
I don't care what anybody else says. I care what you say because you're on this love fest with the guy, and now suddenly a revisionist history, a trade you hated.
I liked when the Titans used to win, and when he was the GM, they used to win.
Yeah,
and now they never win.
And you know why they never win? Because the roster's terrible. Because
it's all on the Chargers.
Had a good run.
Scoring touchdowns. Cory Curtis, News 2, as always. By the way, have you heard my theory on Poo Poo Johnson?
Who is Poo Poo Johnson?
Poo Poo Johnson is this fictitious quarterback that I think 30% of the Titan fan base would be excited about if that's who the Titans pick to be the quarterback next year.
Yeah.
They'd be like, Jared, you don't understand. Poo Poo Johnson is the man. Let Rand cook. I trust Brian Callahan over you. Bill Callahan will fix it. You watch. Poo Poo is the man from Rear End State. Jared, you don't understand.
And
when you give me Derek Carr, and Jake Browning, that is Poo Poo Johnson. That is 30% of the fans will freaking think that guy is going to be Brock Purdy if you do it.
Oh, no.
Because this fan base wants to believe that stuff. The quarterback options are horrible out there.
Yeah,
and I'd rather sign Ryan Tannehill
of them are a Band-Aid.
than some of these Poo Poo Johnsons.
All of them are a Band-Aid at this point. None of them are a solution. None of them. And by the way, the biggest Poo Poo Johnson is Jameis Winston, who has 8 interceptions in the last 3 games. Why anybody would think he is a solution when you're upset with Will Levis for turning the ball over, you want to bring in a guy who's thrown for 30 interceptions and now has 8 interceptions in his last 3 games is baffling to me. Absolutely baffling to me. The last thing I want to say before I go, because I know I take too much of your time, is this. The first time your son poops on you, just know that's for me.
Okay, well, I think, it hasn't really happened yet, but it's come close enough.
Oh, no, it'll happen. One time when my daughter was 2, she was riding on my shoulders at the zoo, and it was just like a giant vat of butterscotch pudding ran down my back. It was absolutely horrible, and I can't wait for your day to come.
How appetizing. Cory Curtis, News 2, as always, on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Cory, we are off next week, so have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
All right. Happy holiday, happy Hanukkah, happy whatever anybody celebrates.
Thank you. Thank you. Cory Curtis, News 2 on the program. Okay, the college football playoff kicks off tonight, and we got a big one tomorrow. Tennessee and Ohio State. And I feel shockingly confident about my prediction for tomorrow night's game. Shockingly confident. We'll get to it next time on the Company 102.5 The Game.
Great opportunity this week, playing a big game against a great opponent. A lot of work's gone on to get to this point. Guys started back in January, staff and players together, and they've earned the right to play in a game like this. Great opponent, great venue. You look at Ohio State defensively, they lead almost every category in the country. And offensively, got elite players on that side of the ball, and they tie it together well with special teams. So huge challenge for us, but one we're really excited about. And preparation's been good. We got to continue that this week and get ready to go play our best football when we get up to Columbus. So great opportunity.
Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers head to Ohio State tomorrow night. It is the biggin. By the way, I expect massive ratings for the college football playoff. I think you'll get huge, and I know there are NFL games tomorrow, and they're going head-to-head with the playoff. I'll be honest, I don't even know the NFL games. I don't know what time they're on. I don't know. Whenever I'm in front of a TV, whatever YouTube TV tells me to watch. But I am excited about Indiana and Ohio State tonight, Indiana and Notre Dame tonight. I think that will be a blowout. And then the big one tomorrow night, the Vols at the Shoe. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Tennessee's going to win. I expect the Vols to beat Ohio State tomorrow night, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the mood right now in Columbus, Ohio, could not be worse. The ticket prices could not be lower. We talked about this yesterday on the program. The get-in price yesterday was $93. The get-in price for Indiana Notre Dame, $450. This is Ohio State and Tennessee. Ohio State is the most popular draw in the country. It is the team that you get a shot to get them on TV, you put them on TV. That used to be Notre Dame. It is not anymore. It is Ohio State. Ohio State and Michigan was the second biggest game this year. It's almost every year the biggest game, and it's because Michigan was so bad going into it. There's a reason why the primetime Saturday night playoff game is Power Brand Ohio State hosting Tennessee. And yet the get-in price yesterday was $93. I just pulled it up. The get-in price right now, $92 in section 33B and 34B. Want to sit in the lower level tomorrow? $150. $135 to sit in the lower level for a college football playoff game of Ohio State versus Tennessee. If Ohio State played Tennessee the first week of the season in a neutral site, the get-in price would be $300 for the upper deck nosebleed level. But things are bad in Columbus, Ohio. And the reason the prices are what they are, they'd be lower if it wasn't for the Tennessee fans that are coming to buy all the tickets. They are done with the 2024 season, and they are done with Ryan Day. And the players can feel it. Remember how we always talked about toxic positivity when it came to the Titans? Guess what they have right now at Ohio State? Toxic negativity. They're the number 8 team in the country. They lost to the number 1 team on the road by 1 point. But because they didn't beat Michigan, and because they haven't beat Michigan in 4 years, the fan base is done with the team. They're done with the coach. They're done. They're done with the season. And the players can feel it. The players know it. The coach knows it. We saw the drama after the game at midfield against Michigan, and it's a bad place to be. And let's not kid ourselves. In today's era of college football, there's really no such thing as college pride anymore. Ohio State has the best team money can buy, and yet the coach is a dead man walking, and there's going to be 40% Tennessee fans in there. I saw a graphic. I forget where I got it from, so I apologize. But I saw a graphic yesterday. I could not believe this. According to SeatGeek, 41% of their sales are from the state of Tennessee. 24 are from Ohio. Again, this is the number 1 team in the country in terms of popularity in this era of college football. Meanwhile, Tennessee has this wave of energy behind them and the excitement of playing for something meaningful in the postseason for the first time since 2001. The SEC championship game in Atlanta, they lost to LSU and Nick Saban, and that was the last time Tennessee played for a championship. I also think Tennessee's fans will travel, and so will their defense, which has been good this year. Nico Iamaleava played the best ball of his career at the end of this season, and the Tennessee coach is playing with house money and a chip on the shoulder. Tennessee's a 7-point dog. They expect Tennessee to lose. So he can go in there and tell his guys, nobody respects you. They expect you to lose. We'll show you. And not only that, if Tennessee's running the ball effectively, Josh Heupel's proven he'll keep running the ball. So tomorrow night, again, I see the line is 7. And I know Vegas isn't stupid. But I see that the lower level tickets are $150. Again, the get-in price for Indiana Notre Dame, $450. Do you want to sit low tonight? $2,500. The mood in Columbus is as bad as I've ever seen for a national championship contending team in my entire life. Tennessee lost to Georgia. Got housed by Georgia. And it was like, well, I hope we can still make the playoffs. I think we can still make the playoffs. Ohio State loses to Michigan. Knows they're making the playoff, and they're still like, get this freaking coach out of here. I'm not going to say it just means more because I'd sound like a dope doing an SEC commercial. But at Ohio State, apparently beating Michigan means more than anything else. I have people that are Ohio State fans that tell me that fan base will not be happy if they win the national championship this year because they lost to Michigan. And that negativity surrounding Ryan Day and everything else and that fan base and all the Vol fans there tomorrow and everything else is why I am telling you right now, I expect Tennessee to win tomorrow night. And I don't expect it to be very close. And I don't even think Tennessee's a national title contender. But I think Ohio State is checked out. You know when a team makes the NIT, who really thought they were on the bubble, they should have made it to the NCAA tournament, and they're the number 1 seed in the NIT, and they spend all week complaining and Dick Vitale's yelling on TV, they should have been in, baby! And then all of a sudden they play an NIT game at home against Savannah State, and they get blown out because their heart's just not in it. That's Ohio State tomorrow. Tennessee will win. 615-737-1025. If you got a playoff thought, get it in. That's 615-737-1025. Also, we should probably give away some Music City Bowl tickets here in a little bit. Not now, but maybe in a little bit. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number if you want to weigh in. This week's Nashville's Best Deal is from Brewster's Real Ice Cream in Hendersonville. Brewster's offers handcrafted cakes, pies, and ice cream flavors of peppermint Oreo, eggnog, and gingerbread man. Enjoy the magic of homemade happiness this season. Visit thegamenashville.com/deals now and get half off a $50 gift card while supplies last. Let's talk about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. You know I love Hiller. They take great care of my home, and they can do the exact same for you. In fact, I transformed what was a storage closet in my house to a real room. How did I do it? With Hiller's help. That's right. Hiller with the electrical work, Hiller with putting in a mini split, Hiller with the work. Hiller's Cash for the Holidays promotion is back, and they're giving away cash for the holidays with select purchases. Get a $500 Visa gift card when you buy select new HVAC systems or a new whole home generator, or get a $250 Visa gift card when you buy a new tankless water heater. These deals are only available until the end of the year, so schedule today by visiting happyhiller.com. Take advantage of Hiller's $99 drain cleaning this month as well. There's no better time to take care of your home before the holiday guests arrive. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today. It is bowl season, and the Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for the bowl games, including the college football playoff starting tonight, presented by Twin Peaks and Parman Tractor and Equipment. And be sure to tune in to 102.5, 106.3, the game for the Trans-Perfect Music City Bowl on Monday, December 30th. Chase and Big Joe will have pregame coverage starting at noon, and kickoff is set for 1:30. And Music City Bowl coverage is presented by Hi-Fi Buys. Ian, do you remember the throwback to, I forget what year it was, but it was one of those years where we had the Music City Bowl, And ESPN sends the broadcasts all down one pipe. So the Belk Bowl was going on, and it was like in the third quarter when the Music City Bowl kicked off. And we're only getting the feed for the Belk Bowl. Well, the stadium needs, they need the radio. Like they need a 2nd down and 4 from the 35-yard line. So Floyd and I called the first half of the Music City Bowl between Kentucky and Northwestern. And I remember having the giant sheet in front of me being like, pass is incomplete, intended for number 18, DJ Johnson. Oh, no, excuse me. That's 18 on defense. Number 18, we were not prepared to call the game. We called the game. Everybody said we did a good job, but whew, that was something. Speaking of that, let's give away some tickets to the Transperfect Music City Bowl. Be caller 5 right now at 615-737-1025 and you'll win a 4-pack of tickets to the Transperfect Music City Bowl game at Nissan Stadium on Monday, December 30th. Good luck with that. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter says, when it comes to Tennessee, they said, which one of these teams looks like a championship contender? The answer is Ohio State. Ohio State is probably the number 3 team in the country. Maybe the number 2 team in the country, because I'm not impressed by Georgia or Texas. So they might be the number 2 team behind Oregon. And again, they lost to Oregon, the number 1 team, by 1 point. But Ohio State, with the negativity surrounding the program and the fact that their coach is a boob, they have checked out. And Tennessee will win tomorrow. I am just convinced of it. One texter says, Jared, who do you think will win tonight? Indiana versus Notre Dame? I think Notre Dame will win, and I think it'll be close for about 3.5 quarters, and then I think Notre Dame will kind of pull ahead and win something like 35-17, where it looks like a blowout, but it's not necessarily a blowout type game. That's what I think we're going to get when it comes to Notre Dame tonight versus Indiana. But hey, Indiana, man, they've got some juice. They got beat by Ohio State, but that was the only team that they played. With Notre Dame, I mean, I watched a handful of their games this year. They beat A&M, good team. They beat Louisville, but that was a game where I feel like we really crapped that game away. Steven says, Ohio State reminds me of a team that is embarrassed about losing to its rival at home and wants revenge. Ohio State is not playing in the college football equivalent of the NIT. The NIT letdown equivalency in football would be more like Florida State, relegated to a bowl game last year and not showing up. The Buckeyes have a legitimate and clear path to a national title. But I don't think that's like, they're not thinking about that there. They're thinking about how much they hate the coach. They're thinking about how they don't even care because they couldn't beat Michigan, so it's not worth it. They don't care. They don't this. They don't. I'm telling you, maybe Ohio State can pull the, hey, we're all in this together, everybody in this building. But it's hard in college sports when you've got one of these big fan bases and your fan base hates you. And right now, the Ohio State Buckeye fan base hates their team and specifically their coach. And that's why I think after the Michigan fracas, everybody's going to do their own thing. Texter says, Ohio State has proven that they do not have a counterpunch. The Vols have had comebacks against Alabama, Florida, and Vandy. I believe the winner of this game is determined clearly in the first 30 minutes. I really don't think Ohio State's passing game is as good as it should be. So if Tennessee can get a lead with their defense running the ball, which I think they're going to do, I think Tennessee's going to blow them out from the jump. Like, I think Tennessee, this is going to be a butt kicking. And then the phones, oh my God, next week. Jared, how about the Vols? I'll tell you, they this, they that. Like, I think you just got to take advantage of Ohio State in a bad spot. But that's just me and don't want to make a big deal about it and everybody get upset. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number on the program. That's 615-737-1025. I feel like I just hit something, Ian. I don't know what I hit, but okay, so I guess I didn't hit anything bad. Coming up next, I'm afraid, based off the reporting, that Amy Adams Strunk is going to do something that I pray she does not. And last night, I got a feeling of what that's going to end up like. We'll get to it next. Stillman and Company live again from the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue. Come on out and donate coats to Coats for Kids. Either a slightly used or new coat. We're taking them up until 6 o'clock at the Ford Ice Center Bellevue. We're hanging out in the lobby at Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. That is the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue, where once again we are collecting coats. That's right. Come bring your coats here. Drop them in this little Home Depot box for Coats for Kids for the Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee. Slightly used and new coats. Come on out and bring them. So, Ian, last night we had a bunch of different sporting events on. Did you watch a hockey game last night? Did you watch a football game last night? What'd you watch?
Hockey.
You watched hockey? Very
Preds,
disappointing ending
yeah.
for the Predators last night.
Yep.
So, I started with the women's volleyball last night.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville knocking off Pittsburgh, who had one loss on the season, in the Final Four. So, beat them. So, they're gone. And now we play for the championship on Sunday. And then I watched the Preds, and then I flipped to football on Amazon last night because, you had to, with all three of them, you had to exit, log out, log in, sign up, whatever.
Yeah, that kept me from switching over to football.
Last night, I wasn't shocked by it last night, but you could hear how loud the Bronco fans were at SoFi Stadium last night. Now, the Broncos, we've talked about a very good fan base. That is a tier 2 fan base. They've had franchise quarterbacks. They have won Super Bowls with multiple quarterbacks. Elway was really a 20-year player for them. Manning, Tebow. I mean, the Broncos have had some success over the years. Now, they haven't had success lately. But the years where you develop fandom, the Broncos are a good fan base. They're not a tier 1 fan base. They're not the Dallas Cowboys. They're not the Philadelphia Eagles. But they're a tier 2 fan base. They're not the Pittsburgh Steelers. And last night, I'm watching this game, and every time the Broncos got a sack of Justin Herbert, you'd hear the roar of the crowd. It was crazy. So then I started to couple that with the idea that TD floated out there and Paul Kaharski's been floating out there that they're hearing that there may not be major changes at the end of another disappointing Titans season. As Paul wrote in his clip, in his column, indications are nothing's going to happen to Rand Carthon, but this would be the first time that the Titans will have gotten worse in 3 consecutive seasons since 1983. And it hit me last night watching that Thursday night football game. If Amy Adams-Strunk brings these guys back, because this fan base does not want them back, if Amy Adams-Strunk brings back Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker, I hope she's prepared for her new stadium to sound like SoFi Stadium did last night. Titan fans that would buy tickets and would go to the games, they're mad enough right now about the PSL prices. And the Titans knew this was inevitable when you ask people that pay $1,000 for something to all of a sudden pay $35,000 for something. The Titans knew that was inevitable. But it's a lot harder to justify $35,000 for something when the team is run by buffoons. Some people will say, people are buying these PSLs. That doesn't mean that they're not pissed about it. It also, I would be surprised if people really are buying the PSLs at the clip that they're acting like people are buying. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll be shocked. So if people don't buy these PSLs, or even if they do and they're mad, what are they going to do? We saw it for the Vikings game. They're going to sell their tickets. And Nissan Stadium, the new Nissan Stadium, the pride and joy, is going to be SoFi Stadium South. Bringing Rand Carthon, a general manager who treats the fans like they are A, stupid, when he says things like the ball didn't bounce their way, and B, treating the fans like they're not worth his time when he won't talk to them, would be a total slap in the face to this fan base, especially after she fired a GM who won games, and she highlighted this general manager's ability to culture relationships. I'll tell you, Rand's relationships around the league are so beneficial that we're not going to win any games. Is he going to cultivate a relationship with his own fan base? Absolutely not. Why would he do that? There will be people, if she does not right her own wrongs And this is what this may end up being about anyways. This may be about Amy doesn't want to admit I effed up. Because, again, firing Robinson, in hindsight, bad decision. I thought it was a bad decision at the time, but bad decision. Firing Vrabel, promoting Carthon, bad decision. You're a worse team. But if she does not right the wrongs and does not admit that she screwed up, there will be people who never forgive her for the last 12 months. Firing Vrabel, promoting Carthon, rolling out these massive PSL prices, and putting this bullcrap product on the field. And pretending like this bullcrap product is good enough to get another season. The people that do buy the PSLs will gladly put their tickets on the resale market, or what is more likely, people just won't buy them. So in the first season, when the Buffalo Bills come to town, it will be a Bills home game. When the New Orleans Saints, and Ian, I don't even remember what tier the Saints are in. I think they're a tier 3 or tier 4 fan base. But when the New Orleans Saints show up, it'll be like that Viking game. And they play an AFC North opponent that year and an AFC West opponent that year. Lord, I hope it could be Kansas City and Pittsburgh, because my God, will they pack that stadium. So I hope she understands that when she had handed the organization to John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, that fans didn't hold her accountable or personally responsible for mistakes. They didn't look at that and say, well, Isaiah Wilson and the team stinks and this is that. They didn't blame Amy for that. Well, the team never stunk with Robinson and Vrabel, but again, they didn't blame her for that. But once she made the move and fired these guys and made it about her, now it's on her. And I'm telling you, I watched that game last night. There will be fans who do not forgive her for the last 12 months. But Jared, it does, again, she's the one that fired the winning general manager. She's the one that fired the popular coach. She's the one that brought in the incompetent general manager and promoted him while firing the popular coach. She's the one that talked about collaboration. She's the one that brought up Lombardi trophies. She's the one that's taking public money to build a stadium. She's the one that's asking you for $35,000, $70,000 for a PSL. They will hold her responsible. And if after all these times that she's told you results are unacceptable, or the bar is too high that Mike Mularkey can't win 9 games in 2 seasons, each of his 2 seasons, win 9 games. But Rand Carthon can win 9 games over 2 years, and that's good enough? They'll never believe another word out of her mouth again. So just be careful what you wish for. I know she had good intentions. Everybody working together and collaboration and hunting together as opposed to hunting at the same time and Lombardi trophies. But the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's not like the Broncos didn't have good intentions when they hired Nathaniel Hackett. They did. They just realized pretty quickly, this guy's kind of a boob. Don't let the Titans make the same mistake. And if they bring back these guys, that's exactly what's going to happen. And it will sound like SoFi Stadium South when the Bills get a first down. Just like it kind of already did when the Vikings got a first down. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Now the big question is, well, Jared, let's say they bring them back. Then what quarterback? What do they let them pick a quarterback? What do they? Guys, I don't know if there's an acceptable answer to the big quarterback question. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
You came from Pittsburgh where winning was a staple there for your entire time and even before that. What's been this hard part about coming here and this team going through what it's gone through?
I think it's been a different perspective. It's been new and fresh, and I was excited for the new and fresh challenge. I had a good time, in Pitt, but I was looking forward to a new challenge, and I love this group, and I think adversity is the sometimes the best teacher, and it is never fun when you're going through it and when you're in the mixer. But I think there's a lot to be learned. Me personally, us collectively as a team this year, and I think we go out here and put a good performance on tape 1 week at a time, and end the season on a high note.
Mason Rudolph talking about, hey, we're going to take this 1 week at a time and see where this goes. Oh, Lord. Let me just say this. I don't expect the Titans to win on Sunday, and I hope the Titans don't win on Sunday. But if they do win on Sunday, do not tell me that Mason Rudolph needs to be the starting quarterback in 2025. But a lot of people keep throwing out names. Jared, what do you think about this guy to be the backup or to be the starting quarterback next year? What do you think about this guy as far as it's concerned? Let me say this. Right now, there are 3 quarterbacks that I think Titan fans would be on board with if they were having a choice at quarterback. One is Sam Darnold, and the other 2 are Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. Now, I don't think you're going to get Shedeur Sanders, and I don't think you're going to get Cam Ward. Congratulations. You beat the Patriots, so now you're out. And I don't think you're going to get Sam Darnold in 2025 either. But if they don't get Sam Darnold next year, I don't know what they're going to do. And there's a part of me that feels like they don't know what they're going to do either. And there's a bunch of different problems when it comes to Sam Darnold. See, I do think it is possible that you could get Sam Darnold, whereas I don't think it's possible you could get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. You could get Sam Darnold because I think Minnesota's going to tag him, and they're going to tag him with the hopes of trading him. It'll cost you your second-round pick. So pick number 34, or whatever it ends up being, goes to the Vikings. So now you've used a very premium pick, and you're going to have to give Sam Darnold $50 million a year. And that leads me to the problem with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is a good quarterback on a good team. He is not a good quarterback on a bad team. He's throwing to Justin Jefferson. And when he played in Carolina and he went 4-2 as a starter, he was throwing to DJ Moore. I spent all that time this offseason dying on the Sam Darnold hill. You guys remember that. I spent all that time saying, I believe in Sam Darnold. I believe in Sam Darnold. I believe in Sam Darnold. But the real argument I made, and Ian, I look like a genius for this one, don't I?
Which one?
I said if you put Sam Darnold in Miami, he'd be the same as Tua. And people are like, oh my God, Sam Darnold, he sucks. And all I kept saying was, let's give Sam Darnold, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle and see what happens. But when it comes to the Titans, you don't have Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. You don't have DJ Moore or Justin Jefferson. You don't even have Jordan Addison. So, again, I don't think you're going to want to acquire Sam Darnold for what it's going to cost because he's not worth what it's going to cost. And he's not as good as he would need to be in order to take them out of this problem they're in. After that, it's Daniel Jones and Mac Jones and Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. And this is why when a lot of people thought Bo Nix, for instance, was a second-round pick, Denver didn't wait. They took him at 12 because Denver probably said, we don't have a quarterback and we can't afford to wait. So they took him. I heard the talk today. They asked Charles Robinson, what about Matthew Stafford? Charles said, I think Stafford's going to stay in LA. What about Kirk Cousins? That's your option? Again, Minnesota didn't want to pay Cousins. because they said, well, we'll just go get Sam Darnold. And that's exactly what they did. Atlanta paid Cousins, but they wanted to protect themselves, so they drafted Michael Penix. Cousins has been awful. Now you're going to bank on Cousins? On his third organization in 3 years coming off of an Achilles tear? You know he was in the same draft class as Ryan Tannehill, right? You could just re-sign Ryan Tannehill. So what are your options? And this is another reason why I think it'd be crazy to bring Carthon and Callahan and Brinker and all these guys back. Because they know if they come back, they're on the hot seat. And if they're on the hot seat, they know their options are Daniel Jones, Mac Jones. Well, they can't draft a developmental quarterback. They can't do what Sean Payton did this year, which was draft his guy in Bo Nix and say, let's see. They can't do it. Because if they start off 0-4, if they struggle the way Bo Nix struggled early, they're out. That's the problem with bringing back guys on the hot seat is they go out of their way to protect their job, not do their job. But if they don't end up with Sam Darnold, and again, the only way I think you get Sam Darnold is by trading a second-round pick and giving him a fat contract, which would then saddle the next general manager and the next coach with a fat contract and with the draft picks that he doesn't have because you used it in order to get the quarterback. Unless they do that, I don't know where they turn at quarterback. Well, Jared, what do you think about, I guess anybody could be a reclamation project, but I'm not sure I would want to bank on what Pittsburgh did last year by signing Russell Wilson and making him better, especially when the coach you had was hired to make this quarterback better and he's already done with him. This is not a good spot to be in. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. We're going to get back to your phones. 615-737-1025, plus a name that is starting to become a little popular amongst the local scribes here. And I thought to myself, really? Oh, God. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 1025 The Game.
I tell you an interesting thought. And this morning, it kind of really stuck on me. And I said, you know what? Because I had been saying Justin Fields. And it's intriguing, but there's question with that. They need to see what's up with the Saints and Derek Carr. And I'm not saying that's going to be the answer to everything, but I think he could give you serviceable enough play to where you got a couple, 2-3 years. He's proven that he could be a productive quarterback. He's also proven, that he could be kind of bad too. But at the same time, I think he's done more good than bad as a quarterback.
Okay, that was TD yesterday talking about Derek Carr. And then today, PK talking about Derek Carr as a potential quarterback for the Titans. Again, Sam Darnold probably going to get tagged in Minnesota, and then you got to make the trade, and then you got to give the contract, so that seems to be out. Daniel Jones stinks. Mac Jones stinks. Kenny Pickett stinks. These other possible guys, probably not. So a starting caliber quarterback that could be had. Stafford's going to stay in L.A. Sanders and Ward are going to go before you pick. That doesn't leave a lot out there. Now, does it? And so TD brought up Derek Carr. And again, PK talked about Derek Carr. And there is the connection because Derek Carr was the quarterback in Oakland when Brian Callahan was the quarterback coach. So at least they know each other. This was 2018. So maybe Derek Carr is the answer. And I thought, oh, holy freaking crap. Do you remember what happened 2 years ago? The Raiders this time, 2 years ago, cut Derek Carr. They fired him. If you remember, it was kind of similar to what happened to Daniel Jones. The Raiders decided, it happened to Russell Wilson last year. The Raiders decided, we don't want Derek Carr anymore, and he's owed an injury guarantee. So we're going to sit him on the bench, play somebody else, because we don't want him to get hurt, and we don't want to have to pay him more money so that he can go. We're going to release him. He'll go somewhere else, and we'll move on with our lives. And they signed Jimmy Garoppolo because they're stupid. But the reality here with the Carr thing was the Raiders had seen enough. Carr had some nice years with the Raiders. Carr had done okay. Wasn't great, but he had okay. It was fine. But they had had enough themselves. So they move on from Derek Carr. Then there's this bidding war for Derek Carr because all these teams don't have quarterbacks, and the quarterback market, like it is now, was kind of slim pickings. The people are like, oh, who should we go get? Can we sign anybody? There wasn't a Kirk Cousins out there. So again, the Jets thought they were getting Aaron Rodgers, but they weren't sure, so they got in line for Derek Carr. The Saints got in line for Derek Carr. The Commanders got in line for Derek Carr. These teams started lining up for Derek Carr. And I remember a report, I laughed so hard at how the reporting worked, where the Jets said they thought if they didn't get Aaron Rodgers, that they could get Derek Carr and make him a Hall of Famer, was what the report said. Carr, it came out on a Sunday that Carr would really wanted to go to the Jets, and on Monday he went to the Saints because he was trying to get the Jets to get off the pot, but they were waiting on Aaron Rodgers. So Derek Carr has now been with the Saints for 2 years. And Derek Carr has done nothing with the Saints for 2 years. Now, Derek Carr may not even be available. The Saints may want to keep Derek Carr. And also, it should be noted, Derek Carr is injured right now with a concussion and a wrist injury. And Derek Carr has an injury guarantee of $40 million for next year. So if he can't pass a physical, then he stays with the Saints and collects his $15 million, his $40 million, no matter what. Derek Carr, as a New Orleans Saint, again, for 2 years, is 14-13. And the coach has gotten fired. You see what I'm saying? Is Derek Carr better than a back quarterback? Absolutely. But Derek Carr is at best, a tier 3 or 4 quarterback in the NFL. What's the upside with Derek Carr? Derek Carr, the last 5 years, let's go 6 years, 7-9, 8-8, 10-7, 6-9, 9-8, 5-5. He's a 500 quarterback. What's the upside? And it's not like you're bringing Derek Carr to a good team. You're bringing Derek Carr to a bad team. And Derek Carr has proven he can't elevate bad teams. And here's the craziest part of all of this. He's no better than Ryan Tannehill. In fact, that's probably who he is. In their careers, Tannehill has a better record, 81-70, Carr 77-92. Completion percentage, Carr 65%, Tannehill 64%. Yards per attempt, Tannehill 7.3, Carr 7.1. Quarterback rating, Carr 92.8, Tannehill 91.2. It's the same. Interceptions, Carr 112, Tannehill 115. It's the same. So you just want to go get Ryan Tannehill back. That's what bringing Derek Carr in would do. And again, 2 years ago, the same desperate people did the same desperate crap where they pretended that Derek Carr was good. The Jets, the Saints. Oh, we can do it with Derek Carr. Derek Carr is the answer. Do you know who Derek Carr is? Derek Carr is Poo-Poo Johnson. That's who he is. 2 days ago, I made up Poo-Poo Johnson, and I said 30% of Titan fans would be Poo-Poo Johnson fans if the Titans told them that they needed to like Poo-Poo Johnson because he was their new quarterback. 30% of the people, the Let Rand Cook crew, the distinguished gentleman on the YouTube chat, would love Poo-Poo Johnson. And I said 30% of the Titans fans would like it. And they'd try to convert more people. They'd make up reasons. They'd come up with excuses. Jared, did you know that Brian Callahan worked with him? And Brian Callahan believes, and I trust Brian Callahan more than I trust you. I've seen it time and time again, where this fan base convinces themselves that somebody who has proven that they're not good is good because they want to believe it. With Kirk Cousins, at least he's kind of been good before. With Matthew Stafford, who you're not going to be able to acquire, he's won a Super Bowl. With Aaron Rodgers, he's a Hall of Famer if you were to bring him in. You can convince yourself that the problem with the Jets is not Aaron Rodgers, but it's the owner. And that's why no matter who the coach is and no matter who the quarterback is, they always fail. But there's really nothing you can say about Derek Carr. You can't say it was a Raiders problem because he went to the Saints and he didn't do jack there. You can't say it's an offensive coordinator problem. He's had about 13 of them in his entire career. So when I hear this new talk about Derek Carr being the answer, I'm like, guys, that's Poo-Poo Johnson. And if you get excited about Derek Carr, you're getting excited about Poo-Poo Johnson. You're getting excited about bringing Ryan Tannehill back. Tannehill was taken in the 2012 draft. Carr was taken in the 2014 draft. And I actually think there is a chance that Tannehill will be starting on a team next year just because there are so few quarterbacks out there. But don't get yourself twisted. Don't get it twisted. Well, because again, these guys can't go with a young developmental quarterback because they can't afford to win 6 games next year. They got to find somebody that can get them to 8 or 9. They can convince themselves Derek Carr. They can convince you of Derek Carr. Derek Carr, did you know he worked with Brian Callahan 9 years ago? But that's Poo-Poo Johnson. And that's why I'm not bringing these guys back. To get Derek Carr? Oh, goodness gracious. If I had told you guys at the beginning of the year, hey, you know this time next year you're going to be pining for Derek Carr, you guys would have thrown up. But that's where you are with bad management. And now you're desperate. And when you get desperate, you do stupid things. I am not interested in bringing in Poo-Poo Johnson to quarterback this football team. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. One texter into the text line says, no quarterback option, so strengthen your offensive line through the draft and become a run-the-ball first team with an average quarterback. You know what's funny? That's not a bad idea. If you're going to do that, Ian, if you're going to be a run-the-ball first team, who would be the best player to do that with?
Tannehill.
Who would be the best player to run the ball with if you're going to run the ball first?
Well, I see where you're going with this, but that's ship has sailed.
Again, that's the problem. So now you're going to want to go back to what you all hated because it's like, well, I guess this is the best we can do. This is why all the coaches who coach here, every coach that coaches here comes in with this idea that they're going to unleash the quarterback. And then they always turn around and hand the ball to the running back. But now you don't have Derrick Henry to hand it to.
Well, the problem is they don't
Pollard's
have a quarterback to throw it a bunch, you know? Only certain teams can do that.
If I was them and my jobs were on the line, which they will be if they keep them, I would rather re-sign Ryan Tannehill than go get Derek Carr. In fact, re-signing Ryan Tannehill might be the number one option if my job was on the line that I would take. I mean, I think you're better off trying to risk it for Rodgers because maybe he can have a Russell Wilson-like rebound where, no, it really was the Jets' fault. But, boy, you got to seed a lot of bull crap if you bring in Aaron Rodgers. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Aaron was worth it. Aaron's not worth it now. 615-737-1025. More of your phones to get to. We'll do it next, plus the polls of what may be a reality. It may be gaslighting. I don't know. We'll get to it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
This is fascinating. I saw that you tweeted about it, that like you're upset with me that I'm not reporting it. So I know what I know, and I can't report it. I can tell you, yeah, I have informed speculation that people are going to be safe, and I've said things can certainly change over time. They could easily go out and get hammered by Houston in Oilers uniforms, and Amy, as we know, can change her mind and something can happen. But as of now, I would be surprised if big changes come.
That was Paul Kaharski saying, hey, I can't report that Rand Carthon's not losing his job. I can't report that Chad Brinker and Brian Callahan are safe, but I'm telling you, I hear they're safe. And we ran a poll today. How would you feel if Amy Adams Strunk announced the retention of Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan in 2025? 46% of the people, Ian, led the way with disappointed.
Okay.
37% said content.
Content. All right.
12% said angry. 5% said happy.
So you'd be in the 12% there, huh?
I'd be angry. If I don't want to waste another year of my life watching this bull crap. But if we were to take the 46 plus the 12, we're looking at 58% of the people that would be furious or would be at least have a negative emotional reaction to the Titans returning this group. 42% would be either content or happy. Ian, I believe that you would be in the content category there. If I had to guess. But again, 58%, that's pretty close to the 60% when 30% of the people would love Poo-Poo Johnson. Let's go to Jordan. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Jordan, go ahead. Jordan. Okay, it said quarterback. So I want to address something that a lot of people have said, where a lot of people have been like, well, Jared, you want to crap on Derek Carr and call him Poo-Poo Johnson, but who out there is a better option? And who, again, what does winning 7 games next year with Derek Carr at quarterback do for you? And I do think there are probably better quarterbacks. Like, I do think Ryan Tannehill is actually better than Derek Carr. But what does that do for you? If you had a new general manager and a new coach that were here, you could bring in a quarterback and tell the fans, guys, we're going with this guy right now, but we're working to figure out a long-term solution. That's what the 49ers did when they showed up with Brian Hoyer at quarterback in 2017 because they thought they were going to sign Kirk Cousins, and they ended up trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. You let the quarterback decision come to you. When you're desperate, you go chase after the quarterback decision. Sometimes it works. It looks like it might work out for the Denver Broncos with Bo Nix. But for the most part, it usually doesn't. It didn't work for Minnesota when they were desperate for Kirk Cousins. It didn't work for Atlanta this year when they were desperate and they signed Kirk Cousins. It didn't work for the Browns when they traded for Deshaun Watson. But it worked for Tampa Bay when they let Baker Mayfield come to them. It worked for Minnesota when they let Sam Darnold come to them. There is a difference. One texter in the text line says, I was listening to the show at noon while driving, and I thought it was the Titans Apologist show. They talked about Rands, the ball didn't bounce our way, as if it was some insider football saying and that it made no sense. I've heard the saying throughout my life, and it's typically something someone says when they are taking no responsibility for what they did or goes wrong. Sometimes it's because something didn't work out due to chance, like losing a bet. But Rand has shown us he doesn't take responsibility for a bad decision and is the first to claim praise if something works, which it rarely has since he's come to the team. Am I missing something? Ian, did you hear this conversation on the midday show today?
Not completely, no.
You heard some of it, though? About the ball not bouncing their way?
No, not
Are we
that
still
part.
doing that, by the way? We're still talking about this?
I didn't
The
hear
ball
that
didn't
part.
bounce
No.
our way?
I missed that.
Okay, so I didn't hear it either. So I can't tell you, like they said this, they said, but I do know that our midday show, God bless them, is a Ran Carthon apologist show. In fact, we jokingly call it the Ran Club because the three of them just sit there and pretend like everything stupid that has happened didn't happen. And the ball bouncing their way is an example, or the ball not bouncing our way is an example of our midday show excusing the stupidity of Ran Carthon. The fact that Ran Carthon either thinks that that's true, which Brian Callahan said he didn't believe the next day, or thinks that you're stupid enough to believe that it's true, is an indictment of his ability to be your general manager. And yet, I've done this with Derek and Chris on the pregame show, and it's almost like he didn't mean the ball didn't bounce their way. Except for when you read the quote, he references in that game, this was after the Lions game, and he talked about the ball not bouncing their way. And he talked about how when the Lions fumbled, the Lions got the ball back. When the Titans fumbled, the Titans didn't get the ball back. He's literally using the bouncing of the ball as the example for the ball not bouncing their way. And also, I hate to be honest, because for some reason, that's not a quality people enjoy anymore. But you do need luck to be successful in the NFL. Like, I'm sorry. Like, some of these things, it's like, hey, it was lucky timing that this happened, or lucky. Now, most of these guys, like Mahomes and Allen, create their own luck. But don't you think that Mahomes got lucky? That when he rolled his ankle in the playoffs or got concussed in the playoffs, he was playing Cleveland and Jacksonville and not Buffalo or Baltimore? So, again, like, I know when the ball didn't bounce your way. When you go to 7 games in the World Series and you lose 1-0 in the 11th inning, the ball didn't bounce your way. Gosh, if we had just got that one hopper up the middle instead, Sanchez made a diving stop and it was a great throw and that's the ball not bouncing your way. When the Predators got to the Stanley Cup final and had a goal taken away in game 1 against Pittsburgh, and I still don't understand how they overturned that call, and then had Colton Sisson's goal in game 6 blown off the board, that's the puck not bouncing your way. That's bad luck. When you lose every game by 35 points, you suck. They're 2-12 against the spread. And I do have to take at least a little bit of umbrage about this idea that when somebody on the Titans says something that's like, can you believe Jarvis Brownlee said these guys got too cold out there? It's like, no. There's like a secret discussion to this about how, no. There's a secret discussion. You don't understand what Jarvis Brownlee said. I understand what Jarvis Brownlee said. Jarvis Brownlee said that the guys on the team are soft. That some of the guys got affected by 42-degree weather. He said it, which means he believed it when he said it. Not that there's some super meaning to that. Mike from Pennsylvania said, I was listening to Mad Dog's show about an hour ago. Mike Lombardi was talking about the Titans with Dog. He said Vrabel wasn't the head coach because he told Levis ownership wasn't the guy, and Rand said he was, so Amy picked Rand over Levis, a proven head coach. Lombardi's been saying that for a long time. That's nothing new. Lombardi said that in September. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know. Again, if that's the case and Paul and TD are hearing correctly, it doesn't sound like Amy plans on holding Ran Carthon accountable for whatever that ends up being. Poo-poo Johnson. Sean says, what about Justin Fields for 1 year behind an offensive line and getting a quarterback in next year's draft? Again, I mean, if you get a bad quarterback, you get a bad quarterback. It doesn't matter. Fields doesn't do it for me. I think he kind of stinks. 615-737-1025. Chad Withrow from Outkick joins us next, as he always does on a Friday. It's Stillman & Company. 102.5, 106 again. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios on our final Fireball Hot Take Friday of 2024. Crazy. This year has just flown by. And boy, has it been a crazy year for yours truly. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, which is the Fordyce Center in Bellevue, where once again, we are wanting you to bring, if you can, a slightly used or new coat as we are we're getting coats for the boys and girls clubs of Middle Tennessee, working with the Predators in that regard. And apparently we got some grown-up hockey going on right behind me. I don't know, was this like high school or something here at the Fordyce Center? So get excited about that. It is a Friday, which means Chad Withrow joins us on the program, presented by A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. So Chad, let's start with this. Normally we have a hot seat, but we got a humongous college football game to get into, which we'll do in the next segment. But I want to start with this. Paul Kaharski, your former colleague, says he's hearing Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker, and Brian Callahan will return. Teron Davenport says he is hearing the same thing, that those guys will return for another season. After they gave up on their handpicked quarterback, Will Levis, this week, the guy that Brian Callahan was picked to coach, how can they possibly do that and put us through another year of this? What is your reaction to the idea that these guys might all return, given how bad this season has been?
Well, my reaction is they better have one heck of a sales pitch as to why they're coming back and what their plan is, because I haven't seen any formulation of a plan yet that shows any sign of working. Brian Callahan, he wanted to be a head coach in the NFL. So, I'm sure he came in and he said, what I saw from Will Levis in college, he's got some traits that we really like, and I can work with this guy, because he's going to say that if the owner and the GM love the quarterback. So I don't really blame him on that. But, yeah, it was Rand Carthon's pick. He picked Will Levis, got him in the second round, not a first rounder, but the thought was he was going to be the franchise quarterback for the Titans. And when that blows up in their face, you're left going back to square one. So if there's a really good plan as to, hey, we're drafting really high, we think we can get this guy, we love this quarterback, he's going to be there at 2 or 3 or whatever it is, and we're going to draft this quarterback and build a team around him, then you need to do a good job convincing me of that if I'm the owner. But the other part of this is too, does Amy Adams Strunk want to admit that she made a mistake firing both John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, or one or the other? And a year removed from firing Mike Vrabel, that's what she would be admitting. And I just don't know. I don't know her well enough, Jared, to know if she's the type of person that's going to admit fault like that. Or is she the type of person that's going to say, hey, I made this bet, I'm going to sleep in it. You guys figure it out. I hired you to do the job. You better do the job moving forward, or we're going to have to figure something out. But I'm going to give you another year to try to do that. And if she does that, what does that do for decision making for the Titans front office that could hurt the team long term? Mm-hmm. Because they're just trying to win a handful of games more next year to try to show progress, and in doing that, maybe not helping the team overall long term health wise. So it's a difficult situation. I don't know where Amy Adams Strunk is mentally. I don't think it's really the way to go right now. But, I'm also not going to be in there whenever Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan give their sales pitch as to what their plan is to pull this team out of the abyss. And that's where they are. They might be the worst team in the NFL. And if not, they're definitely in the handful of the worst teams in the league. So they got to have a really good sales pitch and plan on how they're going to come out of this.
I think there's a legitimate chance, Chad, that Rand Carthon may skate out of this without doing a press conference. That if TD's right, Paul's right, what they'll do is the Monday after the season's over, they'll send Callahan to the podium. He'll answer all the questions to the best of his ability, and then that will be that. And that we will not have a press conference from the owner, and we will not have a press conference from the general manager. Do you think that Rand Carthon can actually get by without holding a wide open press conference after the season?
Absolutely he can. Who's going to make him do it? The owner, who doesn't speak either? What place is she in to say you must meet with the media and answer all their questions? She doesn't like to do it. They don't want to deal with the media. So, I mean, they're doing the bare minimum as is right now. So, I mean, no one in Titans media relations is going to demand anything if they don't have to do it. So, yeah, I absolutely see a possibility.
But you don't think that the pushback from the fans and the media, you don't think the pushback from the fans and media will be so strong that he has to do it?
What are the fans and media going to – I mean, the fans should be more irate right now about everything. They're just showing it by not going to games. But the media is not going to make anything happen on this. No. I mean, has the media made Rand Carthon do the amount of press conference they want this year? Has the media forced Amy Adams Strunk to speak? She should. They should be a demand. They're not going to make the Titans do anything. This, Jared, is the ultimate downside of pro sports. And this is what I can't seemingly wrap my head around. If you are a college coach, if you're a fan of a college team, you can be in a really bad spot. You can hate your coach. Your coach could be screwing up on the field, off the field, everything else. They could be making bad decisions, talking bad about the alumni, everything. But that coach is simply a steward of that university and of that athletic club. You can always fire the coach or fire the AD or get a new chancellor in and hire a good coach that's going to be a better steward for your favorite college. That's what happens when you're a college sports fan. When you are the fan of an NFL team, you are beholden to that ownership. You are beholden to that owner. That owner is the team. That owner doesn't have to do anything. No one can fire them. So if you get a bad owner, and I'm not saying that Amy Adams Strunk is a bad owner or the worst in the league or anything. I'm just simply laying out that we don't have a lot of good vibes from her the last couple of years. But if that's the case, what are you going to do as a Titans fan? Go find a different team? Because you're beholden to that owner. No one can fire that person. They're going to do whatever they want. So if you ask me, is there a possibility that Rand Carthon doesn't speak to the media? Sure. Should he? Absolutely. He should want to do that. But if he doesn't want to do it, and the owner who never speaks to the media doesn't make him do it, they're certainly not going to allow the media to dictate anything to them or the fans. They're just not going to do it.
Chad Withrow with us from Outkick, presented by Momo's Peace Salon and Day Spa. What'd you make of Brian Callahan's rant this week?
I mean, if I'm a player, I like it, but also players are pretty smart when it comes to stuff like this, and they can see through BS. So if that's Brian Callahan naturally, if that's how he is around the team, if that's how irritated he can get, then players probably saw that and kind of smirked and said, oh, that's cool. That's the Coach Callahan we know and that we like that has our back. If it's in any way contrived or they see it as a coach just trying to put on a show for the media and act tough, players are going to see through that too. So to me, it's all about what's he like around the team. If he's that way around the team and then he showed it to the public in defending his team, players are going to love it. If it looked like a show to the players, they're going to see right through that as BS, and it's not going to matter one way or the other, and they're not going to like it.
Here's what I don't like. I don't like the fact that after it was said, everyone in the media was like, how dare you even think to call this team soft? Like, there are a lot of things that have happened over the year that kind of equal soft. You know, the most obvious one, that's the most obvious one. And then again, it's like, well, but that doesn't count. And it's like, but he said it. Like he said, I'm going to say it because nobody else will say it, but guys got cold out there and it affected them. That's soft. And it's like, but no, that doesn't count. And I don't think that it's like offensive, or I don't think that it's politically incorrect to call a football team soft if they are soft.
It's offensive. It's offensive to players. I'm telling you how players think. Sure. Every expletive, Jared, that was used in that press conference, you don't have to bleep out any of those. But the expletive to a football player is calling them soft. Whether that's right or wrong, that is the cardinal sin. That you better have proof or be ready to physically fight someone if you call them soft. So it's a curse word to players in the NFL. It's a curse word to football players everywhere. Now, I think it's also ridiculous for Brian Callahan to stand there in his rant and say, these guys are doing everything possible to win. They're doing everything it takes to win. And I'm thinking, no, they're not. They're committing dumb penalties. They're turning the ball over. They're not doing everything possible to win. It's just that they just happen to not be winning. They're playing losing football, right? Now, you can say, we'll turn the tape on and ask our opponents, and you'll see that we're playing hard and we're not soft. That's fine. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've seen a lot of examples of the team just completely dogging it. But I've seen plenty of examples of the team sucking, and I saw plenty of that in Washington. And then I watched the clip where Jarvis Brownlee says, well, the weather got to us, and it was 40 degrees that day. But the weather got to us. That's a soft statement. Now, if you want to defend that, I know he's talked about it, Callahan did, and say he misspoke or he's a young guy or this and that, or he's not right when he says that, that's fine. But if you want to know why maybe people in the media or fans think the team is soft, just look at that response from Jarvis Brownlee. That's why they feel that way.
Well, isn't it soft when Jeffrey Simmons runs out of the locker room at training camp to try to fight Buck Rising? That's kind of soft, right?
Yes, it's sensitive. I would never call Jeffrey Simmons soft. He's definitely not a soft football player, but it's a sensitive reaction. I think he's very sensitive. I just got done watching the Aaron Rodgers documentary this week. It's actually highly entertaining. But Aaron Rodgers kind of says the same thing. It reminded me of Jeffrey Simmons because he says, oh, people are going to say if I respond to something about me that I'm being sensitive. And he says, you know what? I am sensitive. That's who I am. I'm a sensitive guy that takes offense to a lot of things, and I'm now going to talk about it. And I think that's kind of Jeffrey Simmons. I don't know if it's soft, but it's definitely overly sensitive to criticism.
Why do you think they made the quarterback change? Do you think Callahan's coaching for his job and he wants to show that he can win with another quarterback?
I think Callahan wants the support of his locker room and any leader that's left on the team. And he knows as a man and a leader of a football team, you cannot look your players in the eye and act like you're trying to win or giving them the best chance to succeed by continuing to put Will Levis on the football field. That's what he knows. He can't have any trust or faith from that locker room if he trots Will Levis back out there. You are a fraud at that point. If you're telling your team, hey, I'm trying to help you guys succeed, we're working our tails off to get a game plan together, we want to go out and win these games, we're not laying down, we're not going to play soft, we want to win, and you put Will Levis back out there after those 4 turnovers and all the other turnovers we saw this year, then you're a liar. And players are going to see through that. They're going to know he's a liar. So he couldn't lie anymore because I've said it for a while now. Mason Rudolph isn't going to make the catastrophic mistakes that Will Levis did. He's no better, but a warm body with a pulse is better than Will Levis out there because they're not going to make the same mistakes as Will Levis. And now Brian Callahan knows that, and the experiment is over, and everybody knows it.
Chad Withrow with us, presented by A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa from Outkick. Tennessee on the road at Ohio State tomorrow. And boy, do I feel confident in my belief of that game tomorrow. We'll do it next with Chad Withrow from Outkick, Stillman and Company, 105 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, Fireball, Hot Take Friday. Chad Withrow from Outkick joining us as he always does, presented by Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa. So, Chad, normally we have the hot seat, but we have too big of a football game tomorrow night, Tennessee at Ohio State. Chad, I'm sure there's a little part of you that's nervous for tomorrow night's game. I think Tennessee is going to win, and I think Tennessee may blow them out. I think we talk about toxic positivity with the Titans. I want to talk about toxic negativity at Ohio State. The ticket prices, the get-in price is $92 as of about an hour ago for Ohio State, Tennessee. If this game was being played on Labor Day weekend, then the get-in price would be $350. And again, it's Tennessee fans that are driving the price up. SeatGeek says 42% of the ticket purchases have come from the state of Tennessee, 24 from Ohio. And again, we talk about soft, the end of that Michigan game as a whole, Ryan Day, it's a mess. I think Tennessee crushes Ohio State tomorrow. Do you share a similar sentiment?
Well, let me start by saying I'm not nervous at all. I'm very excited. I mean, there's nothing that can happen that would make this Tennessee season not a success. They were picked 7th in the SEC. I think they started the season 17th or 18th. So the goal was always get to the college football playoff. I would have been disappointed if they didn't get there. My goal coming in was I thought this team was good enough to get there. They got there. Tennessee's playing with house money. Tennessee's behaving like they're playing with house money. That's the sense I get from their team. They're ready for this challenge. They want to play. I don't get a good feeling or sense from Ryan Day or the Ohio State team as to how they're going to play. But, Jared, you hit on something that I wanted to talk about too. The Ohio State fan base is being so incredibly weak right now after this loss to Michigan. I'm blown away by it. I mean, they act like they're Alabama under Nick Saban and win the national title every other year because they don't even care that they're in the playoff after losing that game. It's really shocking to me, the lack of interest, enthusiasm, everything for this game from Ohio State fans. And Tennessee fans are ready to go. If this game was played between the fan bases, Tennessee would win by 50 points. But it's played on the field between the players, and I can't get a good sense of Ohio State. I know all the Vegas money is on Tennessee. I don't know if that's more recency bias because what we just saw from Ohio State against Michigan or what's going on there. People really know or feel good about Tennessee in this matchup. I'll just say this about both teams on the field. They're pretty much the same team. Ohio State's a bit more talented, and they certainly have better wide receivers than Tennessee. But statistically, they're kind of the same. And when you look at their seasons this year. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I'm excited to watch it, not nervous. And I think Ohio State fans are being incredibly weak about this whole deal. There's still huge sections of seats that are not sold right now. And Ohio State fans could be buying them. There could be more Tennessee fans coming up there to buy them for all I know.
Are you talking about in the secondary market or even like at Ohio State's box office?
It's the secondary market that has a huge swath of seats available.
Sure. So this is just my take on it. Maybe I'm being too nice. I think Ohio State fans, the reason that they've tuned it out is because I do think that the Michigan game matters to them. And again, rivalries matter to everybody, but I just think that's a different rivalry. And the way that went down, it's almost like they're boycotting. We don't even care about the playoff. We don't care about the championship because this season's all for naught because we lost to Michigan. And for some reason, I actually find that a little admirable.
I mean, I don't. Look, that's what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. I'm acknowledging that they fell off a cliff with that loss to Michigan, and they have not climbed back out of that crevice yet. So definitely they have allowed themselves to die with that Michigan loss. I'm just saying at some point, we're 3 weeks removed. Get up off the mat and get ready to go compete for a national title. Now, if Ryan Day doesn't get to the national championship game or doesn't win the national title, and you want to be angry about his performance against Michigan, fine. I'm not saying don't be angry and don't be upset with it or don't want a different coach, but this is the first ever 12-team college football playoff. You're hosting. If this game was at Neyland, it would have 100,000 Tennessee fans there and about 3,000 or 4,000 Ohio State fans there. I just think it's a weak showing from their fan base. And at some point, you got to suck it up and move forward. And it just feels like the Ohio State fan base said, no, we've had enough. We lost to an average Michigan team at home. So even if they win, it's kind of this whole reaction, Jared, has been like, just prove it. Yeah, just go ahead and prove it. Just go win it all. We don't care about the point. Just go win it all, and then we might talk to you again. It's very odd.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because you and I were talking yesterday, and I said to you, I go, if this were Louisville, and Louisville is not a college football power. I mean, I'd say we're probably like a mid-level college football program. We're not an elite program. We're probably not a secondary program, but we're also not, Rutgers. If this were Louisville hosting Tennessee in a college football playoff game, the get-in price would be north of $500 for the worst seat in the stadium, because that's how jazzed Louisville fans would be about playing a college football playoff game and playing a team like UT at home. And that's even if they had lost to Kentucky the week before, which is the rival similar to that. That's where I have such a hard time understanding. This is Tennessee, Ohio State. ABC is putting this game on at night, tomorrow night in prime time for a reason, because they're going to get massive TV ratings. And still Ohio State's fans don't care. Do you think that affects the Ohio State players and coaches at all, the negativity surrounding the program?
I don't think so. I think they'll probably it might actually help them a little bit, to kind of get the old us against the world type mentality in this game. And with Ryan Day too, I think that's a possibility. You bring up a good point about Louisville. If this game was at Louisville also, there wouldn't be 40% of the crowd being Tennessee fans.
Sure.
That also wouldn't be a thing if it was there. And look, I get it. It's Ohio State. They've had a lot of success. They sent a ton of guys to pros. They don't lose to anybody but Michigan every year. And they're a Big Ten power. I understand what I'm saying. They have a gigantic fan base, tons of alumni everywhere and all that. But, again, I just keep coming back to it's the playoffs. This is what we've wanted for so long. And you're hosting a game. And it just ticks me off to think about, there was a decision between Ohio State and Tennessee at 8-9. And to think about what this would mean to Tennessee fans to host this game at night in Neyland in the cold, and how awesome that would be. It just really bothers me that Ohio State fans are, I don't know if it's arrogance, petulance, whatever it is, I don't like it. And Tennessee fans can claim a W just the way they've handled this versus Ohio State fans this week, regardless of what their football team does on Saturday night. I have no idea. I think the teams are evenly matched, but man, I get being upset with the loss to Michigan, but pick yourself back up by the bootstraps at some point.
Last one for you. Did Nico's performance against Vanderbilt give you confidence that if he has to win the game tomorrow, he can?
By the way, next time I come on in the new year, we got to talk about the Diego Pavia deal.
Oh, yeah.
That shocked me. That shocked me with that ruling. Yes, it's not just a Vandy performance. I thought Nico, Jared, outside of that one throw that I'm not sure what he was doing on the interception, I thought that was his best game of the year. Passing-wise, I thought he was on time. He saw everything well. He was hitting a third and fourth progression at some points in that game. I thought he played really well. I really think since the scramble against Alabama for a big gainer that was eventually going to lead to their go-ahead touchdown, since that point on, he's played a lot better football. And throughout the month of November, he's been better for Tennessee. So, yeah, I got a lot of faith in Nico moving forward. But to me, he's a big question mark in this game. Will Howard, too, for Ohio State. Can those guys make plays with their arm in the cold for their team to have success? So I'm excited to watch him. I think he's going to be great a year from now. And I really think that all the good play early on against terrible competition probably inflated the sense of Nico a bit. And then he came back down to earth against Arkansas and others. But, I'm excited to watch him move forward because I think his best football is right out in front of him.
Okay, give me your thought then on the Diego Pavia situation where I guess I just saw that they granted an injunction. I didn't see that he won, but everybody's treating it like he won. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, he got an injunction, which I think is a win for him.
I think it's a win for right now.
Right. It's not a new NCAA rule or anything that's been implemented. I saw Steve Sarkisian complain about the NCAA. They didn't rule on this. That court ruled on it in his favor. So I think he's good to go. Look, here's what I think about it. It's great for Diego Pavia. It's great for Vanderbilt. Very cool for those guys. It's a terrible precedent for the sport because you're going to have so many situations where now high school seniors going to be freshmen aren't going to have spots because why would you take an 18-year-old freshman when you could take a 20, 21-year-old freshman out of junior college? If eligibility means nothing, You're going to have guys in their mid to late 20s constantly, not just the COVID year guys that we're starting to go through now, but all the time. Tennessee's got a tight end in Miles Kitselman that is now, I read today, is considering filing an injunction so he can play at Tennessee again next year. His eligibility is up, and he's one of their best tight ends. But he wants to come back because of this Diego Pavia ruling. He's not going to be the last. Again, really cool for Pavia. He's going to make good money. It's great for Vanderbilt football. It's a terrible precedent for the sport.
Chad Withrow from Outkick, presented by Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa, as always, on our program on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Chad, great stuff. We will talk after the new year.
All right. Have a great weekend. Thanks.
Yep, Chad Withrow on our program. Stillman and Company, I know. You're going to say I'm not a real fan with my real feeling about what I want to see out of the Titans on Sunday with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. But I think it's because I'm really looking out for the Titans. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. So you're hearing the same thing Paul is hearing, that day after Black Monday or whatever, there will be like Amy's not going to do an interview, so it's going to be like a statement.
No. I'm not saying that anybody's speaking. I'm just saying what I've been told is they're not making major changes. A la Rand, a la Chad Brinker, a la Brian Callahan. They're not making major changes.
No! That was TD yesterday on the program. Paul Kaharski has said the same thing, that he is hearing that Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker, and Brian Callahan will return in 2025. I have no reason to know why they would return in 2025, but I guess that's beyond the point. Which takes me to Sunday's game against the Colts. There are still 3 more games left. And there is a part of me that thinks that the reason why Brian Callahan is making the switch at quarterback and going with Mason Rudolph is to show that he actually knows what he's doing as a coach. This team actually has improved a little bit. This team actually isn't that bad. And he wants you to see it with Mason Rudolph at quarterback and that Will Levis was holding everybody back. If TD's right and Paul's right and Carthon comes back and Callahan comes back and Brinker comes back, then the fall guy for the season is Will Levis. And while I think Will Levis stinks, I do not think that he is the reason that this team stinks. There's a big difference. So how does that get proven? How do we prove? You know what? Levis is a problem, but he's not the problem. You lose by 50 on Sunday to Indianapolis. The game's 3.5. Anthony Richardson, the Colts have absolutely ruined him. The Colts are a bad team. They're poorly coached. And so I don't expect the Titans to lose by 50. But Lord, would I love it. And if there's anything I've learned about Amy, it's that just because she's telling people she's not going to make changes, that absolutely will not stop her from doing it. And if there's anything that's going to piss her off, wearing the Oilers uniforms and getting crushed by Houston is number 1. Number 2, might be getting your hat handed to you in the division. If Indy smokes you, the leave no doubt kind of performance that I'm hoping for, then it's going to be hard for me to believe that Amy cannot react by doing something, especially when she's asking people for all this money. And so I know there are people out there that will say, I never root for my team to lose. And that's okay. But you don't get Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck if you're tanking, and you don't root for your team to lose. I also think you're going to be stuck not with mediocrity, but with terrible if everybody comes back. I am looking out for the 2025 Titans because I think there could be hope that the 2025 season could bear fruit. But I know it won't if the same people come back to give us the same gaslighting and snake oil they gave us last year. You think they've learned something from last year? Yeah, they've learned to double down that the ball didn't bounce their way. So I don't even hate to say this. I say this with all sincerity. As one of the biggest Titans fans you will ever meet, go Colts. And go Colts by a lot. I hope Indy puts the foot up the Titans' ass on Sunday. Because if Amy can't look at last Sunday and the totality of this horrendous season and say, my God, these guys I've hired to run this team are terrible, then maybe losing by 50 to Anthony Richardson will be what gets the job done. Go Colts. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dylan and Antioch is up next here on the program. Dylan, go ahead.
Hey, Jared. Yeah, I've been thinking about this whole collaboration thing a lot lately. And the thing I can't do or won't do is go into the next season with the whole collaboration in place. I don't really like Rand or Chad. I think they're both kind of doofuses. You know, Chad with the AI model and the servicing the coach, and Rand scrolling the media and the ball bouncing. But if they were, and I don't think they'd ever do this, if they could come out and say, look, we tried with Levis, it didn't work. Just be real with the fans, with the media, and just say, hey, we're going to try this one more year, but I'm in charge. I'm making the decision. I could live with it. I wouldn't be happy. Just pick a guy and roll with it. But the collaboration has got to go. All right. Thank you.
So you're okay with the same people. You just don't want them collaborating. Is that what I'm hearing? Like they want Amy to say he's in charge. Because they did technically do that. They said Rand was in charge, and then Rand told Jim Wyatt, see, I don't know who's in charge. Diana said that Chad Brinker's in charge, but Rand told Jim Wyatt on Team Stationary that he has contractual control of the team. So I guess he's the guy. I mean, I would be okay with them coming back if I thought that they could articulate a plan for me of why they'll be good that isn't it's all sunshine and rainbows. Or what was it Brinker said, Ian? Hope is a powerful thing, and we hope the fans see that.
Hope is a powerful thing, I believe is a quote. Yeah.
Hope is a powerful thing. Hope? Like that's what hope? And so again, I hope the Colts win by 50. And I see somebody in the YouTube chat says, you're not a real Titan fan for saying that. No, I am. But I'm hoping for 2025.
I would like the Colts fans to feel a little miserable after just getting beat by the crappy Titans.
I think the Colts fans are miserable enough with their lives.
Yeah, maybe. I guess they're 6-8, but it'd be just one more cherry on top for the Chris Ballard love.
They stink. Their GM stinks. Their coach stinks. Their owner stinks. I'm happy with where the Colts are. They can go ahead and win by 50 on Sunday. I'll be happy with that. Six-pack picks are next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. All right, let's talk Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Nothing goes down as smooth or tastes as good as ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. It is time to celebrate the end of the year and hopefully a new year with new beginnings. And to do so, you'll want ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. If you're hosting a holiday party, you'll want to host with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Night to night, please do responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Stillman and Company, this is our final six-pack picks of 2024, but not of the 2024 season. I am off next week. I feel like it's probably the time to spend some quality family time around the holidays and also with, little Jack around. We're really excited about that. So, Ian, if I don't see you before the new year, I want you to have a very, very happy new year, and I want all of our listeners out there to have a happy new year. 2024 was a wild year for me. My life was going in one direction at the beginning of the year and abruptly started going in another direction. And Chase will always talk about how I hate change, and there's probably some truth to that. But I would say that the one constant that I enjoyed throughout the course of the year, no matter what was happening in my life, positively or negatively, and we've had a lot of positive lately, but the one thing that I always felt was the connection with you all every single day, whether it was football, hockey, etc. I don't take the audience lightly, and I certainly don't take the ability to get to do what I want to do every single day as anything short of a privilege. And so this year has presented so many challenges, so many ups, so many downs, so many great moments, the birth of my son, etc., but also the downs. And while I haven't sat here and talked about it on a daily basis, do feel like you guys have been here for me. And I hope that every day on your way home from work, or if you work night shift, your way to work, whatever it may be, I hope we've been able to entertain you along the way. And with that, it's time for six-pack picks and the first ever 12-team college football playoff. Ian, how did we do last week?
Let's see. I don't know. Did we skip a week last week? We might have skipped.
We skipped a week 2 weeks ago. I think we were on last week.
Okay.
No, we did skip last week because
we skipped last week. So a couple of weeks ago, we had week 16 we missed. So week 15 was 3-3 was the previous week. Pretty much
we are right at 500.
Yep, 42, 41, and 2 on the season.
Oof. Let's get right to it.
All right, we will begin tonight. College football. First game of the new playoff, 7 o'clock. You can hear coverage coming up right after Jake and TD right here on 102.5 The Game. Indiana at Notre Dame. Over-under 49.5. Notre Dame is minus a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm going to take Notre Dame. I'm going to need Indiana to prove it to me. This is going to be a tough environment for Indiana. I'm really actually excited to watch a game tonight, but I am going to take Notre Dame. I do love this Indiana quarterback, Rourke, but I need to see it before I can take Indiana. Give me Notre Dame.
I don't exactly know the TNT music for college football.
So it's an ESPN broadcast. I think it's the same.
Okay, well then we'll just keep rolling with the same music. Beautiful. All right, we start with the 11 a.m. game on Saturday. SMU at Penn State, 52.5 for the over-under. Penn State is -9.
I'm going to take SMU. I don't believe in Penn State in big games. This is a big game. And I watched SMU play Louisville, and I think SMU's got some nuts. And I thought coming back against Clemson, they showed it again. I'm going to take SMU. I think SMU might win outright, but I definitely think they'll cover the 9. Give me SMU.
Okay. And then the next game will be Clemson at Texas, starting at 3 o'clock following that. You can hear all these games also here on 102.5 The Game following the Preds. We'll join in progress Clemson, Texas. Over-under 50.5. Texas -12.
I'll take Texas just because I think Clemson's kind of fugazi, but man, I am not a Quinn Ewers guy. I'm really not. I thought I liked him maybe coming into
Tennessee going to Columbus to take on Ohio State, 7 o'clock. Over-under 46.5. OSU is minus a touchdown as well, -7.
Tennessee is going on the road. Tennessee is going to win. Tennessee is going to beat Ohio State. I can't guarantee it, but the negativity is so high right now amongst Ohio State's fan base towards their coach. I think that it is hanging, the Michigan game is hanging over their head like a cloud. You know, they say never let it beat you twice. It's going to beat them twice. Tennessee wins, and I think it's going to be a blowout. I'll take the Vols 35-14. Tennessee blows out Ohio State tomorrow, which tells us more about Ohio State and their mental fragility than it does Tennessee, but Tennessee fans won't interpret it that way. Tennessee wins big tomorrow.
Okay, we move over to the NFL. This is probably a pretty good game here. This is a Saturday game, 3:30 on Fox. So going up against the Clemson-Texas game, the 10-4 Steelers are at the 9-5 Ravens. Over under a 44.5. Baltimore is -7.
7. Wow.
Seems high,
I'll
right?
take the Steelers. I can't, for an AFC North game, I can't do 7. I can't do 7. The Steelers and the Ravens, doesn't it always come down to a 2-point conversion at the very end?
Something like that, or a field goal, yeah.
I mean, come on. I'll take the Steelers.
Okay, that brings us to our last game. The 3-11 Titans at the 6-8 Colts. Noon, CBS. 42.5 for the over-under. Colts are -3.5.
I'm taking Indianapolis. And I'm going to take Indianapolis 30-10. This may be more of a heart pick than it is a head pick, because Indianapolis shouldn't beat anybody by 20. But I think the Titans are just throwing the towel in. Maybe this because of what I hope to see on Sunday. Indy 30, Tennessee 10. That's it for us. I will be back for the award-winning pregame show 9:30 on Sunday. At least I think I'll be on that. Until then, if I don't see you then, everybody have a very, very safe, happy holiday and happy new year. Jake and TV are next.